So I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's now a little bit after 7, and I'm calling the meeting of the Wellfleet Select Board to order of Tuesday, March 12th, 2019 at 7 o'clock. I would just like to start off saying, can I have some attention here, please? So I'm sure everybody here has heard of the fire out on Lieutenant's Island, a very sad and somber event, very tragic. I would like us all just to take a moment of closing our eyes and just saying whatever we say, feel to ourselves, pause and reflect. And then I would like to applaud the work of the Wellfleet Fire Department. It was not easy, the roads were not good with the winter weather, and also the mutual aid of the other towns that came, Truro, Eastham, Orleans, Brewster, and Harwich. And, they did a good job. It was not easy getting out there, and they did it, and Chief Polly is here, and I sincerely completely thank you and all of your men and women. Sorry, guys. And also this morning there was a sunken boat rescue, which again the fire department was there. Mike or Will aren't here. Our town harbor master and assistant our assistant harbor master, so Mike Flanagan and Will Sullivan, and EMTs and paramedics and the fire department and a few retired fire department people and the police got out there in time. I'm not even going to ask how much more time they had in the cold water. But again, thank you for doing a really difficult job and being on the ball. It's not easy.
Madam Chair, I told you I wouldn't get up, but I'm going to.
Okay.
Thank you for your kind words. It's been a rough couple of days. Police chief and I have been talking back and forth. It was difficult as midnight at Sunday was, and yesterday. Today helped a little with the rescue of the two fishermen, and that truly was a team effort, as they all are. But my hat goes off to Mike Flanagan and to Will, because those guys were right on the spot. We loaded up the harbor master's vessel quickly. Everyone was, in safe gear, and we had them. We were out there and back within about 22 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
And back.
And back.
Wow, great.
And I know for a fact that the two individuals didn't have much longer in the water, because one came into the station this afternoon and said, I didn't have much longer. So thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. Okay. Well, on that note, anyone else have any announcements or comments from the board?
I have a comment to make to the audience tonight. I was in an all-day meeting for vulnerability preparedness, and I want to remind seniors and elderly people that live in Wellfleet that the Wellfleet Police Department has a reassurance program. It's free to everybody. It's simply a morning phone call to a resident that might be living alone or impaired or with a disability, so that we can check up on you and make sure you're okay. It's a small community, particularly in the winter months, and I just want to remind people that if you're in need of that program, to simply call the Wellfleet Police Department and put your name on the list.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the audience? Announcements?
If I could, thank you for the plug on the reassurance. It's a great program. We love doing it, and we'd love to have more people on. It's been around for as long as I've been here, longer than I've been here. It's on most of the Cape Towns do it. It's a great thing. Two quick announcements, if I could. We're having a Citizen Police Academy. It's starting Wednesday, March 27th. It'll run for 6 weeks. The classes are approximately 2 hours. So if anybody's interested in the Citizen Police Academy, you got to learn a little bit of what we do, how we do it, why we do what we do, and things like that. And we'll try and straighten out some of the TV stuff you may have seen and things like that along the way. Also, at the next meeting, I'm going to have a couple of new special officer appointments for you to act on. I may not be at the meeting. It's a standard new people we bring on for the summer, so I'd ask you to act on it. I know you'd like me to be there for it, but my schedule is sort of in flux right now. I'm trying to get it straightened out, and I'm just trying to keep the ball moving. So if you see it at your next meeting and you don't see me, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janet, I have a question for the chief.
Okay, Chief, you've got a question?
I almost got away.
It's 1 day a week?
1 day a week.
And what are the hours?
I believe it's 7 to 9. It might be 6 to 8. Sergeant Clark's spearheading it. I'd have to double check.
All right, thank you.
PM or AM?
PM.
PM.
PM. We do one for the seniors at the building that are more during the daylight hours. But this here is for those who may want to travel a little at night.
So I took it about 5 or 6 years ago, and it really is informative. I mean, we drive by the building, we see everybody out, but there's a lot of very interesting behind-the-scenes happenings, and you get to meet all the officers.
That's one of
is
the
really
big things
important.
about it, is that people get to see me quite regularly. I'm the face of the department. I accept that. But I have magnificent people who
Yeah.
work at the department that make me look good. And you have a chance to really interact with them, and they can tell you what they do and why we do what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make an announcement that...
You've got to announce that your name is Dick Elkin first.
Oh, my name is Dick Elkin, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Wellfleet Community Forum. The forum is holding a meeting next Monday in conjunction on community housing. It's sponsored by the Wellfleet Housing Authority and the Local Housing Partnership, and we will be discussing with the townspeople 95 Lawrence Road's proposed community housing plan. So they'd like to present it to the town and get feedback from the town. It's an article on the Warrant.
Good, thank you.
Jen?
Anyone?
Yeah,
yes.
I had an announcement.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. This is, and I think I can do this on behalf of the board, to thank people who have served on committees that have resigned formally. I'd like to thank Charles Thibodeau for serving on the Recycling Committee, Jack Neuwirth on the Bike and Walkways Committee, and Lou Schwartz on the Cultural Council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, which brings me to something on a future agenda. Nancy, would you like to go?
Yes, so I just wanted to reiterate the thank you to the fire and police departments and the harbor master department. Those were two shell fishermen on the boat today. We had a state biologist in doing water quality testing today, and the water temperature was between 37 and 39 degrees in our harbor. So truly, this was a great work of heroism to get these two men home safely to their children. There's one of them has 3 kids and one child, so
Yeah.
they're really part of our family, and in fact we all become an extended family here, united by the shellfishing community. So I just wanted to say thank you again to everybody who helped.
Yep. How was the call, or how was the SOS sent out? Was it over their radio? Were they able to do that, or was it just somebody seeing them, or, if I may ask?
No, of course you may. It's my understanding that one of them had gone under and was fighting to get out from under the boat. The other was able to keep a cell phone dry enough to call 911 and get a signal. And then at that point, there was someone across the harbor who saw some distress. So there was a couple of phone calls that came in, and at that point, we got dispatched, and we automatically called, and our fire dispatch calls police and the harbor master, and so it just goes from there. And then we also have them call the Coast Guard to see if they have an asset available in terms of a boat or a helicopter. So there's lots of things that are happening in a very, very short period of time to move rescue personnel in place. So the initial call was 911 off a cell phone that miraculously stayed dry.
Wow.
Well, and I've seen you in action, and it's and all the different departments, and it really is wonderful how you guys all work together effortlessly. If it's not effortlessly, but it's well done. Nancy?
Then I did just want to say that Assistant Constable Johnny Mankiewicz and I attended the state-mandated constable training at Mass Maritime for the past 2 weeks. It's an all-encompassing course that was 52 different sessions for 25. I think there was 25 in our class. And it covered so much stuff. It was mind-opening, certainly, to see how many different departments and issues being a shellfish constable touches and entails. So just to give you a little bit of understanding of that, we studied everything from shellfish biology and diseases to harmful algae blooms and climate change influences. We learned about our responsibilities regarding lobsters, conch, eel, and crabs, so not just oysters and clams, if you will. We learned about water classification and public health controls, as well as food safety. We were brought back to the origins of how constables came into being, shellfish constables, and the laws and jurisdictions that we work under. The reporting and the implications of our actions, both legally and judicially. Even oil spills and coastal erosion and nitrogen mitigation were covered, in addition to just propagation and all the normal day-to-day stuff and volunteer programs. But certainly we did cover also boating and safety and emergencies, and it truly is a position that touches many different areas of our lives, and I feel very enlightened and much more informed having gone through the school, and I was told that Johnny and I both passed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's even better. Good, thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Board? Okay, moving on to public hearings. The request to close the well from April 22nd to the 5th has been removed, right?
That is correct.
Yep.
They are going to stay open during that time, so we encourage everybody to go eat there.
Okay. And now we have a Shellfish grant renewal from Bradley Kaplan. Do you want to come up and, yeah, let everybody know who you are. It's important for us to know who's who on the flats. Get to put names with faces.
This is Brad Kaplan. His grant is out kind of in front of Mayo, to the right of Mayo Beach, out deep.
It's the second closest grant, like to the jetty, across the channel.
Yeah.
Is it on? Yeah, it's
Okay.
on. So I had said last time that I'd like to be here with Brad. We had a great meeting, just talking about future plans, looking ahead. He's made some investment in clam seed, he will this year, and I just felt it was important for us to actually have a conversation before you came and he was away, so.
Sorry I wasn't here last week.
That's
2
okay.
weeks ago.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Yes, Kathleen?
Hi, Brad. How long have you had this particular grant?
Since 2002.
So you
2002.
know how to work this particular grant?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, 2002.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to approve to renew Shellfish Grant License Number 2002-01 and 2002, this is a typo.
Dash
Oh,
01
01 extension for a 10-year period for Bradley Kaplan.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it?
Thank you.
Great. And then the next public hearing is approval of a one-day beer and wine license for the Mass Audubon Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuary. You want to come up and just do a little spiel for the Audubon?
Thank you. This is the 10th anniversary of our big fundraiser, Wild Wild Wellfleet, and the Wellfleet Bay is 60 years this year, and this will be a great event under our tent, and it really helps us fund our school programs and camp scholarships, where we teach 2,100 children in the public schools on the Lower and Outer Cape in every school. We're expanding into more into Provincetown and Truro this year, and every child in Wellfleet receives at least 3 classroom lessons and a field investigation on a topic related to the work we do at the Audubon in conjunction with what the standards of science are for that grade level.
And the event is really fun, incredibly good food. It's everyone from around the town, little tasties and all food, and it's really a lot of fun.
And our sanctuary director is retiring, so Bob Prescott, so in case you know who is going to apply, please send him our way.
Yeah.
It's great for Bob.
And then the other thing was, the last thing, I believe it'll be the last thing, is you're just reminded to get a tent permit.
I think the tent company does apply for that.
Okay,
As part of their, they take that on.
yeah, okay, good. Any questions or comments from the board? From the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to,
Okay.
I move to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Mass Audubon on July 18th, 2019, for a fee of $100.
Second?
All in favor?
As conditioned by the building inspector to get the tent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's maybe,
Just make sure you get a tent
Yeah,
permit, because it
right.
says on our thing that from the building inspector that you need a tent permit, so.
We will.
And you are right about the tent company, I believe.
yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
And now, legal discussion, the opioid lawsuit from, is our lawyer
Yeah.
going to present
Carolyn
it
Mur-
or answer questions? Both. Okay, do you want to come to the microphone then? So this is our lawyer, Carolyn Murray. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
So good evening, members of the board. What I've just given you is a brief summary of what this is all about. About close to a year and a half or so ago, we were approached by a couple of local as well as national law firms that are getting involved in suing the opioid manufacturers and distributors for the impacts that the opioid epidemics has had on our communities. They approached us to partner with them because they realized that there's something unique about representing municipalities when it comes to things such as gathering documents or who keeps your documents. For example, with communities, your impacts with respect to the opioid epidemic, certainly we all think probably first and foremost of public safety. We think of things like the costs of either implementing or purchasing and training our first responders with respect to Narcan. We think of our increased dedicated services for ambulance, hospitals, our social services. It also has an impact on us as an employer because our employees are not immune from substance abuse issues as well, and this results in things like workers' compensation claims or in the public safety sector, 111F claims, and obviously it also spills into your youth services, your council on aging, any kind of services that the town is actually providing. And towns historically have not really quantified what has been the impact of these types of responses or stresses on the town's coffers. So when these firms approached us, one of their reasons was they said, we understand how municipalities work, or we understand where records would be kept, or what departments would be the best departments to cull certain information from, that type of thing. So we've teamed up with, as this e-update shows you, firms such as Barron and Budd locally, Sweeney and Merrigan. There's some of these firms, Sandman, have been involved in things such as asbestos litigation in the past. They were also involved with the MBTE chemical additive to gasoline, and I don't recall whether or not that was something that Wellfleet joined in, but a number of communities did join in that kind of multi-district litigation a few years ago. So we agreed to partner with them. And we've been letting our clients know that this is something that we're involved in, and if they have any interest in getting involved themselves, then tell them how we go about it. But let me just give you a couple of bullet points about it. This is not a class action lawsuit. So unlike a class action lawsuit where the class all has to have similar damages, this is very much an individualized lawsuit that if the selectmen chose to get involved with, there would actually be a complaint filed on behalf of the town of Wellfleet. Because there are so many cases, there's something close to 600 cases pending nationwide, that this falls under what they call the multi-district litigation process. So right now, everything is under the auspices of a judge, a federal court judge in Ohio, who is kind of shepherding these cases through the system. There has already been an attempt by the opioid manufacturers to file a motion to dismiss. That motion to dismiss has already been denied by this federal court judge. So that's really given some bolstering to the plaintiffs involved to think that there really is truly some merit to the damages that they're claiming. This is also unlike the Attorney General's lawsuit that you may have read about. The Attorney General has a separate lawsuit. Some municipalities felt that, well, we shouldn't sue separately because is that going against the Attorney General, or is that harming the Attorney General's purposes by their lawsuit? I think the answer to that is no, but of course that's a very specific question that you have to answer in terms of the best interests of Wellfleet. But the Attorney General's lawsuit will be very much like the tobacco lawsuit was. Any sort of damages that the Attorney General winds up collecting, those go to the state, and whether or not any of those funds ever trickle down to cities and towns remains to be seen. In this particular instance where if you choose to get involved, this would be a lawsuit filed on behalf of the town that you control. There is no cost to the town of Wellfleet for getting involved in the lawsuit. This is unlike anything that any services we've provided for you in the past. There is no hourly billing or anything of that. This is strictly done on a contingency basis. We, at any given point in time, if there is a settlement proposal, that settlement proposal comes back right here to this board, and you decide whether or not that is in the town's best interest, or whether you want to keep going forward with the litigation, or even if you decided you wanted to pull out of the litigation for whatever reason. We do keep track of the time that we spend working on anything on your behalf, but you will see it on the bill always as a no charge. It's only if there's ever going to be a settlement on behalf of the town that we would get a portion of whatever those damages would be, again, should you choose to get involved. There's also been a fairly recent development where initially the litigation just named a number of the manufacturers. There are now a number of complaints that are being amended to also include other distributors such as Walgreens, CVS, and some other names that would be familiar to folks who run pharmacies that are also regulated a little bit differently by the Drug Enforcement Agency. And that is in large part as a result of some depositions of some of the manufacturers' key personnel that have already taken place, where there appears to be some evidence that the truth about opioid addiction was misrepresented, perhaps even covered up, that certain reporting requirements that the Drug Enforcement Agency has have not always been adhered to. And I'm sure as this goes on, there will be further revelations beyond what I'm sure you've probably seen in the news or on television series highlighting some of this. So this is something that I know I had mentioned to the town administrator some time ago, and he asked me to finally come in and speak with you folks to see, is this something you're interested in? If not, that's no big deal, but I certainly wouldn't want you to not be aware of it as a possible option if you feel that Wellfleet has been particularly affected. I can tell you that there are about 10 other communities on the Cape that have chosen to join in, plus Nantucket and a few communities on Martha's Vineyard as well. Not to mention others throughout Massachusetts. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I would say I certainly support this. I think I encouraged our town administrator to get in touch with you. And even aside from a settlement, it sends a really good message. So I'll ask the rest of the board if they have any comments on it. Yes.
Yes, I agree with Janet, and certainly we know that the opioid epidemic is serious, has claimed lives, and there's been bad actions. So I support it. I do have a question you may or may not have the answer to. It's always a balancing act with an issue, and there are people with legitimate pain problems, chronic pain problems, who I have some concerns someone in pain cannot get the prescription they need, and I don't know if you have a comment about that.
I don't know at this point of any impact that the litigation has necessarily had on prescribing needed medications for anyone. I think one of the things that I've seen in some of the materials from the discovery that's been done in reading some statements made by some of these representatives or these experts that were studying the impacts of drugs, I think there certainly were some incentive programs out there to push certain products into the market and to minimize their impacts. But I don't think, certainly the purpose of the litigation is not to take them all off the market.
Sure.
But to make sure that they truly are given to those who need them and that they are regulated the way they're supposed to be.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the audience? You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I'm grateful that your firm has been willing to take this on, and you have answered some of the questions that I really wanted answered because they weren't answered in the contract. So I think I got it. What if there is a court case and they appeal and they are represented by whoever, and we and other communities are represented by KP Law, and our side loses? Does the town get a bill?
No.
That's what I thought you said, so that's good news, and it needed to be pinned down. The second thing is, Justina asked one of the ways in which I was hoping we would get a little clarification, because on the first page of the contract, which is called Engagement to Represent, it has this really interesting phrase, which is, if we say yes to this, we decide to take on the law firm of blah, 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 on a contingent fee basis to pursue all civil remedies against those in the chain of distribution of prescription opiates responsible for the opioid epidemic which is plaguing the town, which is true. It's plaguing the whole region. But that was very general, and that's partly what was answered by Justine, when you answered Justina's question. But from the little I know of it, which is actually not that little, isn't it not the manufacturers so much, but the distributors?
It is very much focused on the distributors, yes. I mean,
Okay.
obviously we wouldn't have distributors if we didn't also have manufacturers, but yes.
Do you feel tonight yourself that this language in the contract, which you've read, is adequate to address what's wrong? Is there anything in here that you would change?
I can tell you before we even decided to join with this consortium, this particular agreement was vetted back and forth by however many of attorneys were all involved, a number of them. I do think it is broad enough to cover what the complaints are aimed at. I think if there's a concern that it isn't going far enough or isn't giving great enough authorization, we could certainly amend that to not just say manufacturers, but also distributors. And in fact, given the fact that we are starting to amend complaints to include entities like Walgreens and CVS and Rite Aid, that may not be a bad idea to include that language.
Okay, thank you.
Any, Kathleen?
Thank you for your presentation, Carolyn, because it really explained it very succinctly for us. And my hope is, and I think we're all heading in the same direction, that as a town and the Board of Selectmen will support being a part of this lawsuit, so that in solidarity we can stand with the other 10 communities on Cape Cod that are battling this addiction problem. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, may I have a motion?
I have one more question, sorry. Are we going to have to prove damage with numbers, with data?
One of, sort of a two-part question. One of the things that you will see shortly after, I mean, assuming you authorize us to file suit, shortly thereafter, and when I say shortly, I'm going to say within the 60 to 90-day window after filing, there's something called the plaintiff's fact sheet that will be sent to the town. It includes standard questions that every community is being asked in terms of they're looking for budget information. If you run an ambulance service, they're looking for any data on how many ambulance runs have been in response to an overdose or an opioid-related medical emergency. They're looking for whether there's been increased training of any of your personnel. We've certainly seen our first responders go to a number of trainings or even engage in some regional programs for dealing with the opioid epidemic. They will ask for perhaps even some personnel, payroll information if we have got any employees who've been impacted. It's a pretty comprehensive fact sheet, and in some ways it's a bit intimidating, but that's our first attempt at culling out our records and really quantifying how this has impacted the town of Wellfleet. That's just the initial step. Now, since there are so many cases in litigation, what the multi-district litigation is going to do is probably going to choose two cases that they call like the bellwether cases. And they will select two communities, and those will be the first two that go forward towards trial. Maybe they even go all the way to trial. Perhaps they stop short of trial and they settle, and maybe that becomes the launching pad for settlement agreements. I don't ever expect that all 600 cases are going to go to trial. In fact, I would say the vast majority are not. What we do expect at some point is for the defendants to stop fighting and start talking to us about, well, what can we do? What can we look at in terms of a global type of settlement? And that's when we'd have to come back to the board for approval of any sort of settlement agreement, whatever that might look like. Some things that, some other communities have talked about, they'd like to see an inpatient facility actually get constructed, or more inpatient facilities. Now, from a municipal standpoint, I start thinking, and who's going to run that after the facility is running? Who owns that? Who operates that? What are the pension liabilities? But, that's getting pretty far ahead of ourselves. It could be straight monetary damages where we just agree upon an amount, and I would imagine that some of that would likely be earmarked for your first responders. Some communities have said, I want, a 20-year supply of Narcan. So it's things like that the folks are kind of running the gamut of, because we realize that just throwing money at it isn't just going to make it all go away for us. We've all got different interests. I don't expect that a Wellfleet case will go to trial. And if we think of all the communities in Massachusetts, I think it's rather unlikely that Wellfleet would be chosen, but certainly it could. And I imagine we would have settlement discussions right up until the day that that trial begins, or even the day the trial ends. But more likely than not, what we expect is that one or two of those bellwether cases go forward, and depending upon what the jury's awards are, I think that that will have a significant impact on how the defendants then approach the remaining cases. And I think if they are found liable for any number of claims against them, I think they are going to be very quick to want to try and resolve these other cases.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay.
Can make a motion?
Motion.
I move that the town of Wellfleet retain the law firm of Levin, Papatonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor, PA, on a contingent fee basis to pursue all civil remedies against those in the chain of distribution of prescription opiates responsible for the opioid epidemic, which is plaguing the town, including, but not limited to, filing a claim for public nuisance to abate, enjoin, recover, and prevent the damages thereby.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, and thank you for presenting that clearly.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
Explanation.
driving here.
It's always a pleasure.
Have a safe trip home.
Does this mean there are no licenses? Yeah.
Okay, so there are no licenses tonight. Appointments, reappointments. We first have William Warren. Is William Warren here?
He is unable to be here tonight.
Oh,
So should we postpone this?
yeah.
Seeing as he's listed three committees? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll call him for next time. Alfred Picard is not here, but we know him, and I would accept a motion from somebody to appoint Alfred Picard to the dredging task force.
I move to appoint Alfred Picard to the Dredging Task Force as a regular member for a term to expire on June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Any comments from the board? I mean, from the audience, sorry.
Yeah. So I just want to highlight that. There are 5 regular members and 2 alternates on this. That's the reason I called them a regular. Yes.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that.
Pass that down.
Moving on to Bonnie Shepard for the planning board. You're here, I know. You want to come up and say why you, how all your plans are going to change the town of Wellfleet, improve it? Okay.
Hi, so I'm Bonnie Shepard. I live at 70 Wigwam Street. And I just have decided that it's time to give back to this town, which I love. And I am a professional program evaluator, strategic planner. I'm still working half-time. I divide my time between Brookline and Wellfleet. I vote in Wellfleet. I live more than half the year here. And my circumstances have changed recently so that I have more flexibility to come down here on a regular basis. So I felt that I would be able to participate in a demanding committee. And it struck me that the planning, well, I responded to David Mead Fox's appeal at the activist meeting about a month ago, where he kind of appealed to have people volunteer for the planning board. So.
Great, good. Well, I'm all for it. Good luck. Any comments from the, it's harder than being a select board member, but we should have voted you in before I said that.
Yes.
It's not really, it isn't really, but
It's easy, it's easy.
There's some tough jobs out there. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, have you been able to review, familiarize yourself with any of the material? Have you been able to go to a meeting? Have you read the minutes? Have
Yeah,
you watched?
I familiarized myself on the website with the minutes of quite a few of the past meetings. And I tried to figure out what the schedule for upcoming meetings is and couldn't nail that down. And I read the materials that on the subdivision laws and the sentence in the town charter that describes the responsibilities of the planning committee. And I talked quite a bit with David Mead Fox about the planning committee and what its responsibilities are.
Any other questions or comments?
It's a good pick.
From the audience, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to appoint Bonnie Shepard to the Planning Board for a term to expire on June 30th, 2022.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you, and you'll have fun, Bonnie, it'll be great. As long as you have a mechanical mind. And now John Cumbler, I saw him somewhere, there he is. An appointment to the Energy Committee for a term of 3 years, 22?
David Mead Fox also asked me
Yes.
to be on this committee, and I've talked to Dick about what the committee does, gone to various town forums. I'm very excited about the expanding vision that the committee is attempting to move on, and would like to be part of that.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Any questions or comments? Helen?
This will be an appointment for an alternate member, right? So you understand that means you can't vote, but you can
Right.
participate. Great.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, Mr. Elkin.
As Dick Elkin, Energy Committee, as chair, I would think John would be a wonderful addition to the committee.
I agree. May I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to appoint John Cumbler as an alternate member of the Energy Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor? And that's unanimous, too. And then we have the appointment of a Wellfleet representative to the Cape and Island Water Protection Fund. I've thought about this, and I would like to appoint Justina. I think she would be great. But I also want to read what it is. So let me find that, just for the audience to know what it is. So this is, thank you. I want the simplified version. Okay, it's not the simplified version. So this is with the enactment of the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund that was signed into law in 2018, that we will be getting a percentage of that from the short-term rentals bill. And this is asking for the Board of Selectmen to appoint someone from either the board, a town manager, town administrator, or other municipally employed professional staff. And it's really about observing how the money will be spent. We'll be getting 2 3/4% of the total rental bill just for water. So she'll be the representative looking at where it goes, what it's used for, and how it's spent. This is from Justina. Any other questions from the board first?
That's all sounds good, Justina, thank you for even thinking of it. But what you just
We're
said,
going to have to, yeah, we're going to have the motion, yeah.
no, what you just said, so Justina will go and get us some money, we hope.
Try.
Yeah, and then it comes back, and we talk about how to spend it.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
It's when we get the state reimbursement, or
Yeah.
not reimbursement,
Yeah.
when we get
You
the
said
state
something
funding.
slightly different, but my understanding from reading it was a bit different, so that's the reason I
Okay.
brought it up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the role of the, I'm
No.
sorry, Janet.
Yeah.
Attend meetings and represent Wellfleet and get, get us what's due and then bring it back, and there's a process.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Any other comments from the board? Questions from the audience? Go, yep.
My name's Judah Hearn, and I just have a couple questions related to kind of what Helen just asked, what the role of this board is. Do we have a mission for that? Because once you get to the county level, it gets very confusing. There are different funds and such, and so it's unclear to me. So do we have that?
So.
Because it's
Ju-
more
yeah.
than just, because they
Well-
make decisions about which.
So this is from the Cape Cod Commission, and there's 7, 8 pages. We could probably put it up on our website, or you could probably go to the Cape Cod Commission website. And it is establishing, so Justine is going to represent Wellfleet, and each town will be represented, that's in the Cape Cod Commission, that's represented by the Cape Cod Commission. And let's see if I can find an easy way of saying it. So this is for the Clean Water Trust. And ensuring that money from the Water Protection Fund is spent only for the purposes identified in the Act.
Right.
I don't even know if that's been delineated yet.
So this is, it was passed through the legislation. The body that we're nominating Justina, I almost called you Christina again, that we're nominating Justina for is really to determine how the fund is going to allocate that money. And just reading that one little section, it says, Chapter 337 stipulates that the management board duties include determining the method for subsidy allocation, including but not limited to an equitable distribution among participating municipalities, and 2, ensuring that money from the Water Protection Fund is spent only for the purposes identified in the Act. So the board will have to, once they're formed, will have to decide how they achieve that.
Yes, and I think that each town will be able to be represented individually.
That is correct.
And that Wellfleet will get Wellfleet's due, and Orleans will get Orleans due.
So, but that board makes decisions about how all that money's spent, and it's not just about town money. They actually get a lot of grants. So
No, this, I believe, is just about the
rental tax.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and do we still know how much we're talking about there?
No idea.
Okay, because
We have
Kurt
no
just
idea.
quoted $500 to $1 million.
I heard 6 to 8 million, which I would really like.
Okay,
But I
well,
don't think- I
he just
don't think
quoted in
that's
the water
Wellfleet.
board,
Did he-
500 to $1 million, so I'd like to ask him how he got that figure,
Well,
since it's
there-
unknown.
Nobody knows
It's not,
that.
it's.
Well, then
yeah.
why did he say it?
Because it's 500 to $1 million, and that's a generalization. So
Okay,
it's
well,
not a
we
fact,
shouldn't
it's a
be
gen-
throwing that
well, I
around,
don't
but.
know.
Okay,
let's
so
do
as
that.
long as Helen said, that this is just about getting the money Wellfleet puts in back, with no judgment on behalf of that board about the quality of these plans that are approved or whatever, and it comes back to Wellfleet for that, that's fine, as long as you really can guarantee that.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried because there are a lot of boards at the county level that move all sorts of money around, and it is $5 billion we're talking about, overall. That's all.
Yeah, in the whole state.
Yeah, but these grants go to a board and they're spent, so as
Yeah,
long
I
as
have-
this isn't it, then fine, but I
Yeah.
just really needed to ask that question.
For you.
Yes.
Judah, I think it's a good question. We're a small town, and if we don't get a good voice up there, it's about representing our town.
But what you just said was it's just finances, we have a rate, we get that back, As long as it's nothing more than that, and as long as that board isn't judging the merits of
Right,
these
no,
plans.
it's a tax. It's a
Okay.
tax.
Okay, because that was unclear, and in the bill as it was originally presented in 2017, they had provisions like no one from the town could be on it, so I was just really confused and wasn't sure how that evolved. So,
Here's old money bags now.
yeah, so maybe, how could you say that it was 500,000? You're sitting in my chair, sorry.
I know.
So, we were just talking about you. So can you answer why you think it's $500 to $1 million from the Airbnb tax? Thanks.
We're going to move on, yeah.
I guess the question is, how much money is the town of Wellfleet likely to get from the Airbnb tax directly?
Yes.
Was that the question? Estimates from the Cape Cod Commission were between $500,000 and $1 million a year.
Okay, great, thank you. That comes from the commission. Yes, yeah. Helen had her hand up first.
Yeah, so this is not going to be one of those weighted votes like the Assembly of Delegates. It's going to be one town, one vote, not one percentage of the populations. Do we know that?
Yeah, so we're getting, it's just like a
It's not
school
empty.
tax. It's just, because however many children you have in the school and how much your tax, you get that back. I mean, the state gives us back a percentage of our money for roads and all that stuff. So this is exactly the same. There's going to be whatever our Airbnb, our inns and everything get taxed, that money, that percentage is supposed to come right back to the town, and Justina will look at it, watch it, communicate, and then we as a board and as a town will see where the need is. Yes,
Madam
Mr. Hor-
Chair,
no,
I
Mr. Hor-
understood that, but that was not my question. My
May I
question.
answer your question?
Dan.
So
Oh,
I
yes.
did look to see if they were
Thank you.
using a weighted vote system. There's nothing in the legislation that says anything about a weighted vote. So
Yeah.
this is
One vote.
solely one vote,
Yeah.
one town.
Yes.
It's our town. Okay. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead, Kathy.
Madam Chair, I don't have a question, but to Judah Hearn, I did read all 8 pages of this, and it's my opinion that Justina will represent us well in this matter, and she'll have some administrative duties with regard to being our representative and then getting back to this board.
Yes.
I agree with the town. I actually read all this too.
Well, I just want to
and I would
explain,
just
I
like
did
to-
read it,
I
I
would
did
just-
read it,
I
I
did-
didn't want to read it to everybody here, because it's 5 pages.
It's fine, I
just-
don't care if you read it
well-
or not. Well, I'm just saying it is, I agree with the town administrator that there's nothing in this that says there's anything about a weighted vote. It's one vote for each town. And if everybody would read that, they would understand that.
Through you
you.
to Jerry.
That's
I
true.
read every
Yeah.
word of it.
Yeah, Jerry. yeah.
However, not every document covers every formal detail, which is why I asked it, and thank goodness for our town administrator. One of the things that I like the best in it that's worth highlighting for the audience, and this is on the website, by the way, in our packet, so everybody can read 8 pages if they want. It isn't? Okay, never mind, let's just hold that thought. A top priority for this proposal was to ensure that towns that implemented wastewater abatement projects before the Conservation Law Foundation lawsuit in 2011, or the passage of this statute, were not penalized for their advanced planning. That I really liked, because they're not going to say, well, you've already done this, so we're not going to give you as much money. I really liked that section.
Good, does sound nice.
This is
Okay.
not on the town website, this document?
It is under the Select Board's agenda.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
It's,
Okay.
May I make a motion, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Southey, you may get to the microphone.
Can't reach. So we're talking about the money and what Wellfleet gets. I want to make sure that the way it's spent is for cleaning our water, right? I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that going to be, aren't we told by this?
Yes, it's for our clean water fund. It's either for cleaning it and/or keeping it clean.
Okay,
It's mandated.
that's, I just,
Yeah, so it's a water quality.
spend it in a particular way to clean our water, which is a good thing.
There are some pretty wide parameters on how it can be spent, and we haven't gotten it yet. I want to slow down because you don't want to start spending it before you have it.
Oh, I think we already have.
And I don't think we'll even see the first money until September or so.
That would be the earliest, yes.
So, and everybody has their eyes on it, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
So, thanks. Okay, any other comments from the board? I mean, from the, whatever this is called, the audience? Nope. Hearing none, may I have a motion, Kathleen?
I move to appoint Justina Carlson to the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Great, thank you. You can vote for yourself. Barbara Gray told me
No,
you should
actually-
always vote for yourself because it shows that you have confidence and that you want to do it.
Janet?
What?
Actually, if we're appointing her,
She cannot vote for herself.
yes. It's
Really?
like when we were appointed to the Herring River thing.
4-0.
I think I voted. It doesn't matter. Okay, thank you for
You can vote.
pointing that out.
Yeah.
Good. Moving on, Uncle Tim's Bridge with the Wellfleet Historical Society. Thank you. And you can introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to do.
Okay, good evening.
And talk into the mic, please.
My name is Cheryl Jaffe, and I'm the museum coordinator at the Wellfleet Historical Society and Museum. And as part of Arts Week, which is part of our Wellfleet's designation as a cultural district in the state of Massachusetts, we will be having a participatory event on April 28th, which will include offering an activity for people of all ages and persuasions to come to the Historical Society at 6 p.m. and fold paper lanterns that will perhaps vary in size. We're still working out the particulars. But they'll be made of paper, and we'll spend about an hour talking about the history of Uncle Tim's Bridge. I figured it's, I believe it's the 175th anniversary of the bridge. It was built in 1844. So we'll have some historical photographs of the bridge and talk about the history of the bridge. And then we'll fold these lanterns, and each lantern will be fitted with a battery-powered light, depending on how windy it is, some stones to weight them down, or I thought we might have a couple of buckets of sand standing at the bridge that we could just scoop a little sand in the bottom of each lantern. And then folks will carry them from the Historical Society down to Uncle Tim's Bridge and line the bridge with the lanterns and talk about this beautiful landmark that we are so lucky to have here in Wellfleet, and perhaps play a little music and wait for it to get a little darker so the drama of the illumination will be a little bit more powerful, and take some photographs, and then each person will take their lantern that they carefully folded home with them, and the bridge will be returned to its pristine site.
Any questions or comments? Sounds wonderful. Kathleen?
Any chance you could have this videoed?
That's a great idea. I'll
Document it that way?
see what I can do. I know that we'll definitely have photographs taken, and there are a couple of volunteers at the
Good video
Historical
for it,
Society
yeah.
that are good at videos.
And my next concern would be parking. Given some, there's no parking at the bridge.
There's no parking at the bridge.
That maybe you'll be able to use the Masonic Lodge lot or the lot, there won't be parking really at the Historical Society either.
No. So in the instructions for the Arts Week promotional material,
Yeah.
I put that people should park at the town hall parking lot, because it will, theoretically, will be meeting at the Historical Society and then walking down to the bridge. For people who can't make that walk, there should be enough parking available at the Masonic Hall.
Well, you might want to reach out to the Methodist Church or the Congo Church too, with regard to parking. It's in April, so I don't see,
It's a good idea.
yeah, that the event's gonna, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good idea.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Any other from the board?
Yeah, so I'm a slob, and I didn't find the fee schedule, and thank you for paying your application fee, but this is not a municipal group, although it's good for the municipality. What are we supposed to be charging for a fee?
There's no fee for this, right? Did they tell you there's no
Oh,
fee for this?
No, you're
Because you're-
not charging anything,
Right.
Right.
but typically, we charge a fee, we can.
For
and
town
we-
property.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have a schedule of what those fees are. Does anybody
It would be
remember?
$100, probably.
Does anybody remember anything? I don't.
Going to say, I believe the minimum fee usually is $100.
Yeah,
Do we
so,
want to do that?
Well, I would like to waive the fee.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Do you
I
wanna
mean,
waive
they've
the
done a
fee?
processing fee of $50.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So there's no other fee listed on their application.
Yeah.
do you want to make a motion? Do you want to include that in the motion that
Yes,
someone's
absolutely.
making?
I move to approve the use of Uncle Tim's Bridge by the Wellfleet Historical Society on April 28th, 2019, from 6 to 8 p.m., subject to the conditions, if any, as listed on the application form. No fee will be charged.
Second?
All in favor? Great. It'll
Thank
be
you. Thank
lovely.
you very much.
And you'll post that on the town website so everyone knows about it?
Now that I have approval, it will
Yeah,
be
great.
everywhere.
And then next up is the opening and closing of the Herring River to Shellfishing.
So we usually do water quality testing before, a little bit before, but our biologist had a death in the family, so she did that today, and I wanted to give the state about a week of time, just in case anything should go wrong, we can retest or just have a little breathing room. So my idea would be to open the Herring River next Tuesday, March 19th at sunrise, and close it as it always closes at sunset on August 31st, conditional upon a healthy water quality result, which the DMF will communicate to me and to the Board of Selectmen as soon as it's ready. But either way, we can just fix a date. That way the shellfishing
Right.
community knows what day they're going to be
Good.
able to go.
I've been asking,
Good.
so, yeah.
Yeah, they
Any
have.
questions or comments from the board?
I've got a motion.
Well, we have to wait and see if there's any questions or comments
Okay.
from the audience. Okay, you may make a motion.
Okay.
Talking to the
August.
microphone, please.
Yes, 1 second. August 31st?
Yes.
Yeah. I move to declare the Herring River area open to the harvest of shellfish by commercial permit holders as per section 6.4.3 of the Wellfleet Shellfish Regulations from March 19th, sunrise on March 19th to sunset on
August 31st.
August 31st, conditional upon receiving a good water test from the DMF. Is good a scientific enough way of putting it?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank
Thank you.
you. Cape Cod Commission Extension Agreement. And, yeah.
This is
Do you
the
wanna say-
fourth extension of this time, the public hearing period. So we have done this one before. This is just another extension of the time period.
Okay. This isn't the, nope, it's not that one. Okay. Any questions, comments from the board?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Through you to Helen. Where are we at with regard to the permitting process?
I can tell you that, and so can Dan and Janet. The three of us were at the Cape Cod Commission's preliminary scoping process, which is a little bit like telling the town, okay, here are all the things on our checklist that you will need to do in order to comply with what we need to give you a permit. And it went well, and I have to say, the town administrator did the most beautiful job of doing the initial presentation. It was all very civilized, and it didn't take very long, but it had to happen perfectly, and it did, and I thank you.
I would like to, Madam Chair, through you, I'd like to take credit for that, but I would credit the people, the Friends of the Herring River, who really wrote up the whole entire event and gave me a list of highlight points to say. So I was merely the reader of the highlight points that they provided me. So much of the credit goes to them.
So
Okay.
again, to my question, are we close?
When is the
What was the
regular
question?
hearing?
I'm not
Where are
sure.
we in
I
the
think it's
permitting
next,
process?
it's soon, it's very soon. It's on, I believe it's on the Friends website, and I'd like to say, because I've got it written on my calendar, but what if that isn't the right date? So I'm not going to say it. It's
Okay.
pretty,
Yeah, I don't think
it's pretty
there's not a
soon.
date
Thank
yet.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience, comments from the audience? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion?
I move to approve the fourth extension agreement of the DRI public hearing period and authorize the chair to sign the extension agreement.
Is there a
Second.
second? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, and Elizabeth Chapman isn't here, but she's proposing that we choose May for a celebration of that she she would like us to proclaim May as Celebrate the Herring River Month. She is on the board of the Herring River, of the Friends of the Herring River, and there will be some events, River to Table, food and recipes from the Herring River, co-sponsored by the Historical Society, Upper Reaches.
Dave Kuntz can speak to it.
Oh, there you are, okay, yeah. Good, great, okay, thank you.
I hope you don't mind if I read it.
Not at all.
Given this
I was going to
kind
do
of
the
last
same
minute,
thing.
And I'm a newbie, I've never done this before, so.
Yes, and just please introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Dave Kuntz, and I'm a member of the Friends of Herring River. And we are here to ask that the Wellfleet Select Board proclaim May as Celebrate Herring River Month. The river is an environmental treasure with a great historic importance to the town, and as part of our outreach and education mission, this is the Friends, to celebrate the Herring River, we have planned two. Now, we have one more. I think your packet only has the two, but we have one more. Lectures at the Wellfleet Public Library at 6:30 p.m., plus a kayaking trip. These events will include on the 8th of May, From River to Table in the 1800s, about food and recipes from the Herring River, co-sponsored with the Wellfleet Historical Society. On May 22nd, the title is From the Upper Reaches of the Herring Pond to Route 6, which is an armchair video and photographic tour of the Herring River presented by Dr. Ethan Esty, who is the Wellfleet Herring Warden. The new edition is on the 29th, a rare and exclusive Marsh Birds of the Herring River, which will be a photographic overview of the estuary's bird diversity presented by Steve Broker, a field naturalist and a longtime Wellfleet summer resident. Lastly, on June 1, mouth of the Herring River kayak trip, co-sponsored with the Audubon Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuaries, Kayakers will look at the existing dike from the harbor side, learn about turtle habitat in the dunes there, and venture out toward Egg Island for further discussion of the river's mouth. We hope that the proclamation will help with the awareness of our mission to educate the community about the value of the Herring River, past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Sounds wonderful. I'm pretty interested in the food of the 1800s.
So is Beth.
Any
Thanks, Dave.
questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to proclaim May as Celebrate Herring
Okay.
River Month.
Second?
All in favor? Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Are we on to the meeting time? We are. So, because daylight savings time took us a bit by surprise, we chose at our last meeting to renegotiate the time that we start our meetings. We felt it was too late to start at 7 this time of year. Well, some of us did.
Okay,
So it,
okay.
I'm
It's
still
not,
talking. I'm still talking.
yeah.
We said this last meeting that we were going to discuss this.
Oh,
So we're
yes,
talking it,
yes.
okay? So the majority of the board said, I don't know, whoever said, that 7 o'clock felt like it was too late this time of year. So we were going to change the date rather than go from daylight savings time to the end of daylight savings time. We didn't want to discuss it because it wasn't our agenda, but it is now. So I would suggest that we continue, and I was going to say May 1st, which would be another month and 2 weeks or so, to continue our meeting time at 6 PM rather than 7. But I'm open to discussion or comments. Yes.
So, before, when it got brought up regularly, should we change the time we started, I said I was flexible, and I was. I felt completely like, hey, what you guys want to do, especially people that are working. But there are a couple things. I'd like to remind you all of our discussion about doing this in the first place. What we need is to have the public understand in a way that doesn't have a date that's based just on our decision, so everybody knows about daylight savings time, and to have a routine so that people get used to it. The other issue, and I'm not sure if this came up, but I think it did, is, okay, I'm just going to cut to the chase. So today, I have lots of work I have to do outdoors. And I had time to do it because it was lighter. And also, I would have had time, and that's going to start in May, to go for a swim at the end of the day, which I can't really do during the day, and I really need to do that. And if we start at 6, I can't do that.
So is that, is it a hardship to not do it on 2 Tuesdays a month?
I'm just saying, whenever we do it, I think we should figure out a way so that everybody in the town can count on us doing it on a date that's easily findable in their heads. That's why we decided to do it on daylight savings time,
Kathleen?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Helen. I mean, when we switched the time, we made a time frame to, follow daylight savings time. Personally, and several states in the country are doing this now, they're just getting rid of daylight savings time. I mean, it's, but for me, let me give you an example of my day today. I started a meeting at 8:30 this morning, left there a little bit early so that I could walk a dog that had been in the house for that length of time, feed myself, change, and get to here. I can't do that at a 6 o'clock start time. I mean, I would have been, I couldn't have done that.
Did you go to work?
I went to a meeting today.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting from 8:30 this morning to just about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Well, we can also see, so as I've said every year, that I think all the towns' select boards meet even at 5, 5:30, or 6. So it's easier for the employees who have to come, even though, yeah, it's easier for the employees, it's easier for people who come from out of town to get here a little early, like, well, like
I
our
don't think so,
lawyer.
Janet, in the warmer months, but yeah, I don't think it's easy for people in the warmer months.
She's saying May 1st.
Yeah.
Well, whatever
So, and
happens.
Jerry's leaving, and I know he
Now,
doesn't like it.
I just have a question.
Okay.
Why don't you wait until your new member comes on?
Yeah, I was thinking that,
And see
well-
what I'm speaking now, as you said. Why don't you just wait until the new member comes on and ask what his ideas are? Maybe he can't meet at 6, maybe it's 7, who knows?
Because last meeting, the issue was that 7 o'clock felt really late, and we wanted to discuss it, and I know. So by the time our new member comes on, it'll be May 1st. So, all right, so to make it simple, we agreed last week to discuss this. How many of you want to continue meeting at 6? How many want to continue meeting at 7? Who's for 6 o'clock? For 6, what do you
Well,
for,
I think
Christina?
6 has got the benefit of, if we need to go late, it gives
Right.
us more time for important business. It starts to get late if we have, let's say, an executive session, or today we have warrant stuff. I hear that Helen's outdoor needs and swimming, but it is only twice a month. And Kathleen, I hear you, but you don't usually have an all-day meeting. So I just want
So-
to, I mean, I can go either way, but I want to point out the benefits of starting earlier like other towns do, so that we can be, if we have an agenda that needs to go to 10 o'clock, we've got more time.
So Justina wasn't here, but last year, I think during town meeting time, we went until 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that was.
And after. So that's really the gist of it, is that, again, I didn't make this up. The board said they wanted to change the time back to 6 for a while. So who's in favor of 6, who's in favor of 7? We
Wait.
don't need to discuss. It's just, you want to come
No.
at 6, you want to come at 7?
No, that is a simple question, but I would like to wait until, see,
If we wait.
do you
it's-
mean all
it's-
year?
It's moot.
You mean all year?
No, till May 1st.
Well,
No, yeah, yes, till May 1st.
what is about, you mean
Because-
there's that much more light?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
don't know how much.
you understand, my concern is not so much, yeah, sure, I can swim, I don't know when I can swim, the parking lots are full, never mind. But that's not your issue. I don't do it recreationally, it's, physical therapy, if you will. But here's the point. We can't just go switching this around all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
And it's
so,
also
okay,
very-
so simple question. Who wants to start at 6? Who wants to start at 7? I really didn't think this would be a big discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so who wants to start at 6? Justine and I, who wants to start at 7? 2. So we will keep it at 7. We'll keep it at 7, because that's what we have it at now. And we'll bring it up when our new member gets on board.
I'd like to also remind us that we have this new thing we're doing. They're called work meetings.
Okay, another point.
So if we get into a situation where we feel like it's going to be a terrible long meeting, we can just do it in a work meeting.
Yeah, but we don't know until we get there at 10:30 at night. Okay. Town meeting warrant articles.
I could actually vote on this.
You could vote. How would you like to vote? How would you like one of your final votes to be? Recall the question?
I'd vote for 6 o'clock.
Ooh, would someone like to rescind the initial? That's your
Reconsider.
gift to me.
Reconsider.
Reconsider the previous motion?
Thanks,
Breaking
Jerry.
news, I move that we keep the meeting time till 6 o'clock until May 1st.
Point of order. I move that we reconsider
yeah.
our last
Vote.
vote.
I
Remember,
don't
Joe-
think I don't think you took a vote, so
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
Just a
did.
straw
It was
vote.
two-
You-
It was 2-2.
No, we did.
just asked opinions,
Oh,
but you
that's
did
right.
not
In
ask.
the
I
end,
thought
I
it
got
was a
tired of
vote.
waiting for the, yeah, you're
Pardon,
right.
forgive me,
You're
I
right.
thought it was a vote.
Okay, may I have a motion?
I move that we keep the meeting time at 6 until May 1st.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Sorry. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
I'll bring you candy next week.
What I have handed you
Library.
is, Madam Chair,
Thanks.
for the next agenda item. These are the items that are outstanding on the town meeting warrant.
Okay, yeah.
I've looked through everything that has been not acted upon yet and gave you a motion that you can follow or change if you so desire. And then once we get past those, then we come to the petitioned articles, and I've also written up a possible motion for each of those.
Okay. Where are we starting?
You could just start right at the start with the capital budget.
I mean, it's in the back of the book, right, or is it?
It's right on the
Right on
front,
the
the
front.
first page.
We didn't, okay.
We have inserted it into the warrant, but we have not voted whether to
We
recommend or
didn't.
not.
All right, so any questions or comments about the capital budget?
So, on the first page,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, the Shellfish Department, this is from the Shellfish Revolving Fund?
We do not have a revolving fund, but when receipts come in to the town from the shellfishing industry, it goes into the shellfish fund.
That exists?
Yes.
Thank you, I didn't know that, all these years.
Madam Chair, through
Yes.
you to Mr. Hort. Dan, can you refresh my memory? Why didn't we zip this along the last time?
You know, I think I didn't
Well,
have
was
all
there
of
a
the detail.
controversy?
No, but I didn't have all the detail in front of you to show which items would be part of this article and how they would be funded, so I wanted to show you that before you made your recommendation, so.
Yeah, go
I have
ahead,
another
Helen.
question. So here's the mysterious septic fund.
Yes.
Has anybody clarified what that is? You remember the awful moment at town meeting where nobody knew what it was?
Are you really going to put me on the spot again?
No, we're all on the spot, Dan. We're all on the spot. This is my, 7th year on the select board. I don't know what it is either.
It's a rainy day fund.
No, I think it's to help people with their septic systems. May we please
probably-
determine?
You know what, that is what it is. Now, it is when
is.
people needed a short-term loan for their septic systems.
Emergency.
That
Yes.
we were able to provide those loans. So people are repaying those loans. We no longer issue the funds. That's done by the county. But this is for past funds when people needed help with their septic systems.
So let's keep it open,
Yeah,
considering things to come, right?
Right.
Let's not dissolve it. We could
agree.
have
I'm
it.
not asking you to dissolve it. There's a significant amount of money in that fund.
Oh, there-
Because people are repaying it
Oh,
over
yes.
time, so money goes into the septic fund every year.
And then what does it get used for?
It is only used here.
I see.
It
So
can
you
only
did
be,
know.
it can only be used if it's appropriated by town meeting. It can't be used for anything else.
Thank you.
any questions from the audience? May I have a motion?
I move to recommend Article 3 for fiscal year '20, capital improvements as printed in the warrant, in the draft warrant, rather.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And then, I should probably read these for the audience.
That would be helpful, probably.
So current Article 11 is for additional fire department staff funded by ambulance fund. Chief Pauly went into detail at just the week ago, right? When we met with the finance committee. And we moved to insert it, but we hadn't.
Well, you took no
what did
action
we
at the
do?
time. I'm
Okay.
sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
You took no action at the time because we originally had this as one separate
That's right.
article.
That's right.
And what Chief Pauly recommended, and I think it's a great idea, is to fund one of the additional fire department staff
Out of the
positions
ambulance fund.
from the ambulance fund, and then one of them would be funded through an override.
Right, good. Thank you. Thank you for remembering that, knowing that. Okay, any other questions, or can I have a motion?
I move to recommend current Article 11, additional fire department staff to be funded through the ambulance fund in the amount of $79,000 and insert the article into the warrant.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you. And so then the current Article 12, additional fire department staff funded by the ambulance fund.
And I'm sorry, I did a cut and paste there and didn't catch it, but those last two words where it says ambulance fund, this article is actually being funded by a Proposition 2.5 override.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
good.
To be funded by,
Proposition
by?
2.5.
The motion is
Override.
correct, but the header that I did under the yellow, it should have said funded by override.
Oh, okay, on ambulance fund.
Yeah. May I have a motion, or we had a motion?
I move to recommend current Article 12,
Thank you.
another typo.
Yeah.
Additional fire department staff to be funded through a Proposition 2.5 override in the amount of $79,000 and insert the article into the warrant.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's unanimous. And Article 13, it's Chapter 90 funds. Do you want to? Yeah.
So in Chapter 90, this is a standard article we do every year. We did not have the dollar amount when we first inserted this into the warrant, so all I'm asking you to do at this time is to recommend the article now that we know the amount is $243,219.
Okay, any questions, comments from the audience? May I have a motion?
I move to recommend Article 13, fiscal year 20, Chapter 90 funds in the amount of $243,219 as printed in the draft warrant.
All in favor of second? Is there a second? I'll
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Next, current Article 19, bandstand awning. The Recreation Director has determined that this article may be delayed a year. During the course of the upcoming year, the department will attempt to seek alternate funding for the replacement.
No vote required.
So the Finance Committee first brought this up. The bandstand awning, when it was originally put up, was donated in honor of someone. And the Finance Committee asked if it would be possible to see, would that family like to donate again? Or would the Recreation Director consider bringing this to the Community Preservation Committee and asking for funding there?
That's right.
The Recreation Director talked to the welder who does repairs from time to time on the bandstand awning, and the welder agreed that this could wait a year. So we're not going to ask you to put this on the warrant. You don't have to make any motion here. And in the interim, before we come back to you next year, we will talk to both Community Preservation and we'll talk to the family who originally donated
Great.
the awning. So.
Good. That's very good. Okay, current Article 26, local Cape Cod, something.
It is
TV
Lower
funds.
Cape Access Television.
Access cable, access television, there we go. You're
And
right.
you had originally
Cape Cod.
approved this and recommended it with a different amount, and the Cable Advisory Committee has now come up with a budget for the local access television. So we'd ask you to reconsider your vote to recommend the current Article 26 and then move to recommend it with the new amount.
So moved?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Unanimous, Courtney. Article 34?
No, we still have to move
Oh,
Article
we have to
26.
recommend Article.
We just voted
Yeah.
to reconsider.
Okay, so now I moved, well, do you want to make that motion, Kathleen?
I move to recommend current Article 26, the transfer of funds from cable access receipts funds in the amount of $180,269.
Second.
All in favor? And unanimous. Okay, do you want to keep going, Kathleen, do Article 34?
I move to recommend current Article 34, the creation of a Shellfish revolving fund, and insert the article into the warrant.
Any questions, comments? Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Articles 39 and 40, what?
Yeah, so this is the moment, because we're going in order to give you an update. If you remember at the end of the last meeting, or the end of the discussion of Article 35, we had a very good discussion. I re-listened to the whole thing on video today. And the motion at the end of it, and the update has to do with the progress on that, was Kathleen voted to, I move Article 35, the water resources, whatever that position was called, be inserted and with amended language. So I'm just giving you an update. I'm saying Hillary and Alex and I are probably going to meet on Thursday, which is when Hillary said she might be able to do that. And there's been language drafted, and we're going to look at it, and then everybody's going to get to see it.
Good.
Right?
Good.
Okay, yeah. And then we can, discuss the language and maybe change it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Helen, when is that meeting?
Hillary hasn't gotten back to us yet,
Okay.
but it'll be,
I assume I'll be invited, right?
well, anybody can come and listen. It's going to be a quick drafting meeting. I'll ask the others, okay? It'd be fine with me, okay?
Well, it's just all the years that have gone into that article, I would assume you'd want me there.
Well, what I want, I can't speak for Hillary and Alex, is that everybody look at the draft we come up with and discuss it at length if necessary. That's what I want, and that's, for example, what the FinCom's waiting for. And there's going to be a position, and we just have to remember, if you listen to the video, many people said we need more specific language. The two positions were considered, it wasn't voted on, and so everybody's going to get to take a look at it, and then we get to vote on it.
But Helen,
So would you please let Justina know the time and date and
course.
where?
I'll let
And let her
everybody.
know. Well, let her, yes.
And
But you
Madam
could email
Chair.
her and let her know, because
I'm
she's
going to let
interested.
everybody know.
Madam Chair.
Okay, do you hear what I'm saying? I'm asking you to send her a specific, not a group email, or put it on the website, but to make sure she gets an individual copy too. Okay, good, thank you. Yes.
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort, when does the warrant go to print?
So your next meeting is scheduled to be March 26th, where you'll finalize the warrant, and we will make any adjustments that you have from that meeting, and it will go to print the next day.
So that gives Article 35 time to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next article, Article 39 and 40 is, okay, we combine these. Disposition of town-owned land to the Wellfleet Conservation Commission and insert the articles into the warrant. Why didn't we vote on those?
Can't remember.
And that was pretty clear.
At the time, I believe we were waiting for them, or we kind of skipped directly to the housing articles, which were the
So this
next
was
two.
neglect- yeah,
And
yeah,
we
that's
were
what it
waiting
was.
because we didn't have a planning committee recommendation yet.
That's
Right.
Okay, good.
Planning board.
So,
I make a
we have
motion.
that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to recommend current Articles 39 and 40, the disposition of town-owned land, to the Wellfleet Conservation Commission, and insert the articles into the warrant.
Second? All in favor? Okay, thank you, unanimous. And I seconded, but you could put Justina down too, we were both kind of doing it. Article 41, the Housing Authority and Local Housing Partnership have recommended removing Parcel 119 from this article, and so we need to reconsider the Board of Selectmen's vote to insert the current Article 41 into the warrant.
Yeah, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Removing Parcel 119 came at my suggestion. We still had not gotten a recommendation from the Conservation Commission. They've been very busy. So we know we can move forward with the other parcel, which is 112. And if our Parcel 119 gets a good review from the Conservation Commission, we can always come back with it next year. But for this year, it's going to be removed from the warrant.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so can I have the motion?
I move to reconsider the Board of Selectmen's vote to insert the current Article 41 into the warrant.
Second, and all in favor? And then do you want to make the second one too?
I move to recommend the current Article 41, the disposition of town-owned land, map 14, parcel 112, to the Wellfleet Housing Authority, and insert the article into the warrant.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Request from Recycling Committee. Okay, so these are the petitioned articles, yes?
No,
No?
this is the balloons.
This isn't the balloon one, is this?
Yeah, it's not petitioned.
This is not a
Okay.
petitioned article. The Recycling Committee sent a request to the Board of Selectmen asking that they insert this article into the warrant.
What number is this?
It won't be a number yet until you insert it into the
Okay.
warrant.
All right. Yes, Helen?
So I went to the bylaw review committee, because that's what I like to do, and they made a few recommendations. They caught a loophole, which had, you could have balloons, you couldn't have balloons on public land, but the loophole was you could have it on private land, so they fixed that. There's nice language here in 3, okay? And the wording was carefully gone over, and then Dawn Rickman caught something in 6, which is, they're not chapters, they're sections, and that was about it.
So for the audience, that this is about banning balloons in the town of Wellfleet.
Oh, and also, Madam Chair, our Assistant Town Administrator caught that it's a new section to Article 7. In other words, that's the red, it's right up at the top there. I wanted to give him credit.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the audience, board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to accept the request of the Recycling Committee and recommend the Wellfleet Balloon Reduction Bylaw as amended by the Bylaw Committee and insert the article into the warrant.
Second.
All in favor? And Jerry voted yes, too. So, good job, you guys. And someday soon, we're going to have a big discussion on plastic. Townwide discussion on plastic.
It's true.
Good. Mr. Powers, what are you coming up for?
The next petitioned article.
Okay.
Proactive approach to
I gotta
answering any
quickly
questions
read.
on petitioned articles.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're on to insertion in town, which one's this? This has got to be the
This is gonna be a
petition
ballot
for the
question.
mitigation of the seal overpopulation.
So I can quickly read that if you'd like for the
Okay.
viewers.
Okay.
So the petitioned article reads, "To see if the town will vote to direct the Board of Selectmen to place the following question on the next election ballot. Shall the town of Wellfleet, Massachusetts petition the General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Congress of the United States for greater local control to mitigate the growing Cape Cod seal overpopulation problem, as well as the expanding and menacing great white shark problem?"
Wow.
Any comments or questions?
Yep.
Yep, go ahead, Helen.
What is it, this mitigate?
Well, that's unclear.
Yeah, because it's
But mitigate
a
means
leak.
to change, and we kind of know what mitigate means,
Okay.
don't we?
Yes,
No?
Madam Chair.
It means to cull.
It means to, it does. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I'm inferring.
Madam
But we
Chair.
do, the person who presented this, and I have no idea what person or group did, it isn't clear, but I think we still have to move on this. Yes.
Madam Chair, it is illegal to do things
Right, so
to
it-
seals.
yes, yeah.
However much I wish there were less seals so I could swim in the ocean, no.
Well,
It's illegal.
Well, I think that this petition is saying, so this is why
Congress.
somebody should be here to represent it. It is, yes, that the town of Wellfleet petitions the state and Congress to change that law.
I got that.
So, no,
Madam Chair,
nobody's
if I
going to go
may.
right. Yes, you may.
So, as the members have suggested, the question is open for interpretation. Unfortunately, the town clerk cannot interpret their intent. We haven't been able to make contact with the original petitioners, and they have the right to submit it, and it is properly before you for insertion in the warrant. The question really comes down to, there are three different things that could occur based on what their intent may have been. If it is their intent to have town meeting direct the select board to create a ballot question, that could occur. However, the ballot question could not occur until the annual election of 2020.
Say that again, please.
If town meeting if the intent of this petition is to put a ballot question on a local election, a petitioner does have the right to have town meeting vote that to direct the board to do so. If that's the case, that ballot question would not appear until the annual town election in 2020, and it would be considered a non-binding advisory question.
May I ask just, I'm sure the answer is yes, but since we don't know who's presenting this, or there's no group name attached to it, are they Wellfleet residents presenting this? Don't they have to be?
Yes, there were signatures presented. There were no signatures on that particular petition that were rejected for not being residents.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
So,
Chair.
yes, Kathleen.
Through you to Mr. Powers, why until 2020?
Because under the election laws, any question that goes on an election ballot in this mechanism would have to be presented at least 35 days before the election. But because it's a local advisory question, there's an additional 60 days. So if they were trying to use that mechanism, it would have been sometime back in January. Now, that does not prevent the board of your own action adding this question to the election ballot for this year if you wanted to, but that does not deprive them of the right to be heard at town meeting. So you could place it as a local advisory, non-binding question this year, but they still have the right to be heard at town meeting if that's how they wish to go.
Okay, any comments or questions from the board? Kathleen?
You know, it's my understanding from the marine biologist at Coastal Studies in Provincetown, that if we were to cull the seal population here on Cape Cod, that within 3 weeks, possibly even as short as 2 weeks, another 50,000 seals would travel here from the Sable Islands that quickly. That's not just conjecture, it's science. So I'd like to tell the petitioner that, that while we may support this, and we may find that at some point in time Congress will lift the ban on culling seals, as long as our water is getting warmer with regard to climate change, I don't see this changing.
So how does the board just
So
feel
if-
kind of like about inserting it, not inserting it, or
So as if I
supporting it or not?
can interrupt, which I seem to be doing too often, and I apologize for that. And Town Clerk, please correct me if I'm wrong. You are required to insert these into the warrant because they are petitioned articles. They were legally valid petitioned articles.
We don't have to recommend them.
Yeah, your choice is whether to recommend or not recommend each one of these petitioned
They're
articles.
going to get inserted. That's a given.
Yeah.
So may I have a motion?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Thank you. For myself, I want less seals. For the whole, and we're representing the whole, not just the people, we have to leave it alone, in my opinion, right? In other words,
My
I wish.
opinion, yeah.
Well, I'm selfish. I want to swim. It's not about me. It's about everything.
Well, Helen, I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you, Kathleen. Right, like, put it in a Hallmark card.
Jerry, you got to talk into the mic.
I'm just saying we can make, each one of us, however we think, can make that argument at town meeting.
Yeah.
We have to insert it into the warrant, so why make the argument here? It needs to go to town meeting.
So is there a vote to recommend or to not recommend? May I have a motion?
I move not to recommend petitioned Article A.
Into the town warrant. In the town warrant.
In the town warrant, on the,
On the
whatever.
town warrant. Where's the English here? I move to not recommend the petition article regarding local control of seal and shark populations.
Madam Chair?
And insert the, okay, we just got this tonight, so I'm just reading it.
did a
You don't need to do that last part.
Article, okay.
I did a
We
good
don't-
motion.
By
Just say we
having
just-
them
yeah,
certified,
Just need a second.
they are placed.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend is
So
you omit
just-
the language that says, insert the article into the warrant, because they, in each of
They
these
do, they get
petitions,
to,
they've already
yeah.
achieved that right.
Okay, so the motion is to move to not recommend.
Article
Is
A.
there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Okay, so vote to not recommend. And now the next petitioned article is for the, to request the town, to see if the town will vote to request the Board of Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, and the Planning Board consider alternate routes to the bike trail extension and ask the appropriate agencies of the Commonwealth to halt any planning or construction beyond Old County Road until those deliberations have occurred. Just to make it simple, I would move not to recommend this. But if there's discussion, you may discuss.
Here's a thought. The state should be doing this, but and perhaps they will be.
Should be doing what?
They should wait on doing anything in terms of construction.
So the thing is that this
Until-
petitioned article doesn't have anything to do with that. We're just talking about this petition article getting on our warrant.
Yes, I understand, but
And then it can
I'm-
be discussed at town meeting. And again, if
I'm
you have a
explaining-
petitioned article, it'd be really great to come to our meetings. Maybe they'll be at the forum meeting on Monday.
Yeah, my point
hope.
being, we're deliberating about whether we want to recommend it or not, and that's what I think. I think the state should be, not doing anything until we have a nice, big hearing like we did for the roundabout. But I don't think this article is going to do it, and I'm not going to want to recommend it.
Okay, I see, all right, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else have any discussion on it?
I agree with what's been said.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I move not to recommend the petition article regarding the bike trail extension and insert the article into the warrant.
Second.
All in favor of not recommending? Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Conscom and Planning Board and everybody are considering all this.
So I always admire the initiative of people getting together a petitioned article, but it just ain't that easy, I mean, even articles that town committees and town council have weighed in on and given their description and explanation, there's a lot to it. So that would be my advice for anybody petitioning an article, that you really need to prepare and start getting the town ready to understand what your intentions are and what you may need to do. Okay, so moving on to Article C, to see if the Wellfleet Select Board will change the name of Wellfleet Energy Committee to Wellfleet Energy and Climate Change Committee, increase the committee members to 7 members and 2 alternates, and modify its charge as shown below. Does everybody want me to read the charge?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay. So for the audience, you may know that it's taking on the broader scope of climate mitigation, and getting Wellfleet ready in many ways, hopefully.
So, Madam Chair, through
Yes.
you to Mr. Elkin, I'm confused. Why do we need this as a petitioned article? Why not just come to us and say, this is what we want, and we'll say yes?
So that would be wonderful.
Can you go to the
Yeah,
microphone,
you gotta go,
please?
yeah. I thought so too, but it's here.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. The timing, the problem was the timing. the first deadline that we had to meet was if it wasn't on the agenda before the deadline for a petitioned article, then we wouldn't know what would happen. So it's a belt and suspenders. There are three options. The board can simply put this on the agenda for next week or the next meeting or some other meeting, and then we'll pass over to town meeting because the board can discuss it. The second option is, frankly, the Energy Committee voted to ask the board to put this on, so this could be a committee recommendation. And the third thing is it could be a petitioned article. It occurred to us within the last month, and we've been talking about it, and we're learning more and more. It's changing all the time. The last time we had a discussion, we learned all the other stakeholders who were added to the article, because there are a lot of other committees who have involvement in this. And so this has happened within the last 45 days, and it's being a petitioned article simply because if we didn't get it in on the deadline before the end of February, then we wouldn't be guaranteed to have it discussed. I would prefer to have some discussion and have the board act on it, and we can always pass over to town meeting.
And Dick, it came up at my meeting today, and it's very well supported. So I don't doubt that you've got the support of the residents of Wellfleet and also this board. What I worry about is that we're taxing the patience of Wellfleet residents who are going to attend town meeting with a petitioned article that I right now feel is somewhat innocuous.
Well, okay, so if the board acts on it or modifies it, or some other board comes up and says, no, we want to do it, then it will get passed over a town meeting.
Okay.
Right now, though, the idea is we want to get it into the discussion, and it's to guarantee it happens rather than wait a year.
Yes, Helen.
Mr. Elkin, if you remember, we're the appointing authority, right, for your committee. You came before us. We were all very supportive of this change. And I think it was me, said, we need you to have a charge. Change the charge, come back to us, and we'll vote it.
Yeah.
And respectfully, you had no reason to petition this. No reason. And to second what Kathleen said, clogging up, forgive me, with an unnecessary article. The town meeting warrant, you know what town meetings are like. They're pretty grueling, and sure, we can put it on our next agenda. It's a slam dunk. The language is great, the charge is great. We told you that we were in support of this change of scope for your committee. We're the appointing authority. Thank you.
Okay.
It's simple.
May I ask if it's possible to withdraw it? May I ask, Madam Chair, if I can ask?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately.
You can just withdraw it.
50-50.
Can it be
It can be indefinitely postponed. There are any number of motions that could be made at town meeting. But once a citizen petition is certified, it is.
And it has been? Okay.
They've all been.
Because we haven't voted or moved on it yet.
But he certified them.
Yeah,
as
so it's certified.
So it won't take time because we can always pass over it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Town Clerk, if I may ask a question, can the board make their recommendation that their recommendation is this article be indefinitely postponed?
Yes, they can make any recommendation
So we
as
could,
to any action.
we could put it on the agenda for the 26th, where they could actually review it and approve it, and then what would be printed in the warrant would say the Select Board
postponed, yeah.
recommends indefinite postponement.
And we can do that. Okay, all right. So is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes. Do we need a
Right.
motion?
Yes. I move to postpone article.
I move to
petition article.
postpone
Yeah.
the petitioned Article C from the Energy Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Madam Chair, if I may,
You wanna s-
it would be appropriate to say that the board recommends indefinite postponement
Okay.
of the petitioned article.
Starting again, I move to recommend indefinite postponement for petitioned Article C from the Energy Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Unanimous, Courtney. All right, good, thank you. Thank you for your hard work, and you know that you have everyone's support, so, or most people's support that I know of. I don't know about everybody. Sure. Okay, petition Article D.
Can I speak to this, Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is a petitioned article from the Recycling Committee to ban plastic beverage containers.
Say no more. I would vote to recommend it right now. No discussion.
Well, it may take some time to implement this, but when you see the reasons why, and living in a coastal environment the way we do, I think it will be very well supported at town meeting. So I move to recommend petition Article D.
Madam
Six.
Chair?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Kathleen. Do we, this is a question for the Recycling Committee. Has this been talked about at all with the marketplace and any other store that might be impacted?
Hi, this is Lydia Vivanti with the Wellfleet Recycling Committee, and this is...
Yeah, talk a
Can
little
you hear
bit.
me?
Yeah,
Oh.
talk a little louder.
Is
There
this
we go.
better now?
Yes.
Okay, Lydia Vivanti, Wellfleet Recycling Committee. This is municipal procurement of beverages and plastic bottles, water,
Not businesses.
sodas.
Oh, I see.
Not the marketplace. So it's what the town government buys, not
I
what
see.
the individual buys.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Great.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. And I, with your permission, I would like to just alert the board, as your town clerk, as to the general process that I have had as your town clerk for the past 4 years, or past 5 years as it relates to town meetings, when it comes to citizen petitions, and to also advise you of the net effect of all but one of the petitions. First, if anyone ever reaches out to me asking about citizen petition, as you know, the Attorney General's office has been very clear that the Select Board, nor staff, nor the clerk can direct or advise or control any citizen in the process of citizen petitions. However, I can make standard statements, and the standard statement has always been that if anybody was considering a petitioned article, that they may first want to reach out to the board to see if the board would be willing to sponsor that, or if appropriate, another board. And that might be, say, if it were a zoning bylaw, it could go through the planning board, but anything else really could have come before the select board. So whenever anyone presents themselves, that is the statement that's made. And I did not want to say this relative to any one article that you've just made reference to or action on, but with the exception of Article A, the net effect of all the other articles is essentially the sentiment of town meeting. In every instance of the articles there, these are actions or purviews of the select board. So, for example, the policy. The select board actually has a policy on policies. That is not negated by a citizen petition, because town meeting cannot direct the select board to do something other than appropriations or bylaws for the most part. So in every one of these instances, it is the sentiment of town meeting that the board ought do something, but the board always has the right to do that or not do that. So these are essentially sentiments of town meeting. If this board wanted to adopt the policy that was just referenced, you could do that in accordance with your policy on policies. And you could do that ahead of town meeting. So that some of these articles might eventually be indefinitely postponed or take no action. But in every instance except for the election one, these are all getting a sense of town meeting to advise the board as to how they may want to do something. You're under no obligation. They cannot bind you to any action.
It's true.
So where does this go? Let's say it gets voted in. Where does it go?
Technically, your town clerk would advise the board that the articles were passed at town meeting, and this is the sense of the sentiment of town meeting. The board does not have to create a policy because the board has its own policy on how policies are created. The board doesn't have to change the charge of a committee because the board's the appointing authority of the committee. And with the article regarding the bike trail, that is to see if the town will request that the board.
Mr. Powers?
Yep.
We have all these different compartments for our bylaws, our regulations, our select board policies, which people tend to forget, including the select board.
Mhm.
Where does this go?
Do you mean in the warrant itself?
No. I mean, it comes, let's say it gets voted in. Where does it get put so people can look it up? In the recycling committee's regulations? Is it a policy for the recycling committee? Do you see what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, you're speaking specifically to Article D?
Yeah, where does it get stuck?
Placed.
This is like kind of important.
I understand that. That's why I was suggesting if you look at the governance page on the website that has all of the bylaws and regulations.
Yeah,
You've got the charter, the bylaws, and the policies.
I
So all of the policies of the town have been through the select board. There's nothing that would prevent the recycling committee from creating a policy, but town meeting.
Yeah, but so you sort of partially answered my question, and you may think I'm splitting hairs, I'm not, because this could get voted in. And where does it then get archived? It does not go in our policies unless we want to adopt it, which we may not.
It would be in
And
the
there's a-
permanent minutes of town meeting.
Yeah, but wouldn't it go into town regulations?
No, because there's environmental, there's subdivision, there's planning board regulations,
There's
there's
things
our
like,
regulations.
I don't know.
It might go into the
Regulations, I know.
environmental bylaws, but it's not. There are policies elsewhere. There's a policy for shellfish regulations. There's one, I drafted it, I remember. But here's the thing. I know we can't change it. I really would like the petitioners to think about where they think it should go.
Christine can answer that.
Yeah, and we could have it as one of our policies, and you do ABC, and then we get to do it. It's a series of steps.
This is Christine Shreves, Recycling Committee. We approached Joe about the options for getting this done as either just getting it on the agenda, similar to Dick's situation, and asking you to approve it as a select board policy. We looked at the select board policies, and there is one on other environmental issues like hybrid cars and buying plastic that has recycled content, that kind of thing. So that's where we thought this would belong. We had a similar issue with getting it on the agenda and seeing whether it would be accepted or not versus getting it in as a petitioned article and not knowing. So we were essentially wanted to come to you and say we can do it either as a policy or as a petitioned article, but in order to do that, we had to get the signatures, and here we are.
Kathleen?
So if this passes at town meeting, to Mr. Powers, is this binding?
No.
So even though it will pass at town meeting, I know it will.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so too.
They still have to come back to us so we can create a policy?
One could argue, based on your policy on policies, that the recycling committee has notified you that they're interested in a policy. So you can begin that process now. But my point is, under parliamentary procedure, a petitioned article does not supersede selectmen's right to create policy.
Yeah. So, I'm going to say a version very politely and respectfully, because it's a great suggestion, which I support. The same thing I said to Mr. Elkin. Why glut the warrant? Why not just come to us and say, hey, guys, how about this policy? I would have, voted on it like last year, right? So we just had a whole little education, so that's good.
Yeah.
Well, may I, Janet?
Yes.
To Lydia and we could consider that. I mean, the bylaw change for balloons was something yeah.
Just a comment, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know how you were going to react. It could have been that you were like, maybe we're not comfortable with this, in which case we would have thought having support at town meeting would have made a difference amongst the community. So that's why we kind of did both.
So how do we want to proceed?
Madam Chair, I think it's also good for the community to
Have a
rally
say.
round. And
See that
it's
we're doing this.
Yeah, and for people to make up their minds, and it's a nice moment if we all agree. And then it seems like we can certainly make a policy after the town meeting vote.
So we want to keep it on the warrant and
Yes.
then make a policy afterwards? Yep.
I would say so.
Although, yep.
I'm,
I
yeah.
don't say anything. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I would like not to do that. I would like to initiate at our next meeting. It's a slam dunk. It takes 2 minutes. I've been through it with Harry. Initiate the first step of having it be a policy. You do a little thing at the first time in the meeting, and then you get to vote on it then the next time, or what's the stretch?
We haven't done that since I've been here, so I'd have to
Yeah,
refresh
I've done it. We
myself
did
on
quite a lot of it. So here's the point. And then we get to town meeting and we say, we've already done this policy. It's really great. Here's what it does. We move to indefinitely postpone, and then we move on. Because I really don't like loading the warrant.
Well, may I, Janet?
Yes.
Madam Chair, through you to Helen, this is a feel-good article. Residents of Wellfleet are going to be thrilled that the recycling committee is thinking like this and that we're behind it. So
okay.
let this stay. And we're a small community, and we know that this plastic stuff is bad, bad, bad. So let's keep this.
Good advertisement, good public relations, too.
Janet, through you, I'm not the one who minds staying up late. In other words, if it's fine with you guys, it's fine with me, but I'm not the one who minds staying up late.
Yeah.
No, you go to bed at 4, right? 3
What time
a.m.?
do you wake up in the morning?
This is very personal. Next thing next time you're going to want to know what kind of peanut butter I eat.
Oh, I know. I already know.
Okay, so we're in agreement to keep this on the warrant?
Yes.
I mean, I don't care either way, but
We
that
need a
it will
motion.
be
No, it's
done.
petition. It has to stay on the
You,
warrant.
I
you
mean,
have,
not that we
We're
have,
moving to recommend it.
or are we moving, yeah,
you have made a motion already, and it has been approved to
Okay.
recommend the article.
okay, good, thank you. Thank you, guys. Times have changed.
The last remaining article is a motion for you on the warrant here, is for you to accept the order of articles as I've got them listed. Because nothing has changed in there except for one thing, which I'll point out. If you would like to, you can certainly wait until the 26th to finalize the order of the articles. The only thing that changed is I moved Chapter 90 funds above the 3 fire department articles at the
Okay.
suggestion of the moderator, who said if he's going to recuse himself, he would rather have all the fire department articles grouped together.
And where are we?
So we're on, right here.
Line
chapter
12.
9. So do we have to, do you want us as a group to say, yes, we're going to, we agree with
You're
this?
just accepting the
motion?
order of the articles if you want to make that motion.
But we don't have to do any no action or withholding?
Nope, you don't have
That's
to do
just
anything
highlighted
else
for
other than
something
to
else.
accept the order of the articles.
Okay,
Madam Chair?
yes.
I move to accept the order of the articles as recommended by the town administrator and listed below.
Second.
All in favor?
No,
Okay,
I
sorry.
want to discuss it. I think
Okay.
that Article 38, on page 22, the paramedic fire training article ought to be moved in with the fire department stuff. I think it ought to be all taken together.
Article
And
I
it's
see.
it's a long time to get to Article 38.
Yeah,
I think that's too long.
Is there a reason why it does come after all these other things? Is it because of the way the expense would be? Do you see
know
where
what?
we are?
There is no reason other than as I was adding articles in, just the order that I was adding them in.
Okay.
So there was no reason for it being where it is. So if you would like to move to take that one.
I think
to
it's Article
put-
37.
Put paramedic training program.
Yeah.
And insert that after fire department staff override.
Yeah, that would
then
be
I will
much
take
better.
care of that.
Okay.
Is that what
I
you would
have
like to
one more
move?
question, Jan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just write this down. It's Article 37. Yeah. Okay.
Where's the paramedic program further on?
On your list, it's
It's
Article
37.
37.
37.
And
Yeah.
Madam
Page 20.
Chair?
Yes, Kathleen.
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort, where are we at with Article 36?
Article 36, you will, if the chair agrees, I'm going to have an executive session with you prior to your next meeting to
Okay.
be able to discuss what you want to do with that article.
Okay. Can I- oh.
What's Article 36?
That is 3 Kendrick Avenue.
So I waited this whole time to be there for this, so, there was the assumption we were going to talk about it tonight, but we're not. Because the public has heard absolutely nothing about this.
Right.
And when I spoke with Dan in February and asked him what was going on, he said he hadn't heard anything from them. Their lawyer had not represented them anymore. And yet I heard last night at the SAB meeting that in fact, town employees had been directed to continue to pursue this idea. And that ran counter to what Dan told me. So Dan, can you explain, please? Because when I saw you on February 17th, you said you hadn't heard anything, but Nancy explained a meeting
Within the
that
past
happened.
10 days, I would say, I had a meeting with the owners of the property.
No, she said back in January.
I can't account for what she said. I can tell you that within the past 10 days, I had a meeting with the owner of the property.
Okay, well, I'm saying that the public has not heard anything about this again. And I was told last night that you directed employees of the town to continue to pursue it, that they had a
That is a
bullet
different
point.
question than what you just asked. I directed town employees to come up with some sort of a plan of what you would do for that property. I
That's
had
been-
no contact with the owners of the property until within the past 10 days.
And were you directed to do that because of the executive meetings you had before directing the TA to do that? Because I just don't know why we're wasting time on 3 Kendrick. They haven't had the public meetings they said they were going to have.
Well, so then we're not wasting time. There's been no time put into it.
They've had plenty of time. They've had
But I'm
plenty of
saying
time.
that there really hasn't been any decision or any discussion, so.
No, but it's being put off, and there's no reason. I just don't understand why we are doing this.
Janet?
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate your appetite for transparency, and I have the same appetite. Unfortunately, under the law, we are never required to have executive session meetings. But when there's any kind of negotiating situation, we have to have them. And if we have them, unfortunately, although we're diligent about releasing minutes the minute the situation is closed and decided, believe me, this board does that. We have to keep it absolutely closed.
Confidential.
And, we can't leak it. It's very frustrating for me.
I'm sure, and I
But
understand.
it has to happen like that when you have a negotiating situation.
I understand, but when they appeared before the board in November, whenever that was.
I remember.
We were told we'd hear all about it well before this time, that there would be public hearings, this and that, and none of it happened. So my question is, why are they wasting precious time when they didn't fulfill what they said they were going to do? And I understand about executive sessions and negotiating. My question to you, Dan, is when I came in and took the time to ask you about this, you didn't mention that, and I'd like to know why. I mean, it seems misleading at best. You could have said.
Had you asked the question, I would have responded as I
And
just
you
did
know
now.
why I was there.
I'm not going to argue with you here, so
Well,
you
okay,
are
so-
welcome to make statements if
So
you'd
may I
like.
ask then that, so I guess the board directed Dan to continue to do like the Upweller feasibility study and have the, okay, so Dan, was this your idea to have them continue this? I want to know.
I'm going to let
because
Mr. Hort
apparently-
speak. So back when we were discussing this back in a year
November.
ago, a year ago, okay?
Wait a minute, 3
A year
Kendrick?
ago,
I'm-
yes, okay?
It was
When there were
not a year ago.
open meetings, there were department head meetings.
It was last July.
No, it was before town meeting, when we decided that we wanted to take it by eminent domain. So
I don't
we,
remember it that way, but okay.
yeah, so this is how it was. This was on the warrant for last year, right?
No,
Yes, it was.
it was in special town meeting in the fall.
That's right, you're right, okay.
So it was all after that, and we didn't know anything more then than we
Well,
do
so-
now,
so-
6 months later.
Okay, so just hear me, there's nothing more to know at this point.
Okay, so,
So that's it, there's been no negotiations, people love to talk. We all talk about our plans, our desires, about what could happen or what doesn't want to happen,
Look,
but there's
I've
been
said-
really nothing happening.
I said at that special town meeting that there should only be one person negotiating with these people and not a group. You know, to hear that there were
So-
other
so
people.
what-
So
so
it was way
what's the
too
point?
messy. Well, so I'm glad that you're actually doing it in executive session.
we've
I'm
been
just asking
waiting and-
why you're doing it. And for instance, information like what the department heads came up with, I was told was given to you in a bullet point document. I assume that was in the TA report somewhere. You guys have seen this? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, well, why not, Dan?
Madam Chair, if,
we
when
know what we're
this
talking
article
about,
is
yeah.
inserted into the warrant, this conversation would be appropriate for a town meeting.
No, I disagree. We had the conversation. You guys went over this in November. We want information, and I want to know why they are given. So it is privately owned. If they're not reaching out to you to sell it, why are we doing this? If
We're not
someone wants
doing
something from me,
anything.
no, but even to call someone who wants something from you is not good negotiating. I hate to tell you guys. So, you know, they want something from us, which we've heard the demands. Those are not rumors. That's on tape too, everybody. There's 3 things. They want the picnic tables, they want the dumpsters, and they want to move the septic. So people don't even realize that. So to have that conversation for the first time at town meeting, Dan, is not the place. And I would like those documents, what the department heads brought back to you, and you didn't share the TA, in the public's domain. So please make that available now. That wasn't an executive session, correct? I want to know. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Hauk has requested, and I would suggest that we have a motion to move to insert the paramedic training program article after the CIP fire ladder truck as the new Article 15.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I want to look at
So
it, okay.
if somebody made that motion, then it would achieve what Jerry wants to do, which is to move that so that all the fire department articles are in the same area.
What, Article 15?
So what your motion would read is to move to insert the paramedic training program article after the CIP fire ladder truck as the new Article 15.
I think that's wonderful.
Want
Say
to make the
second?
motion?
Yeah.
I move that Article, what is it, 38 now?
37.
37, the
30.
paramedic training program
I
article.
move that Article 37 be moved after the, be moved to Article 15 in the warrant.
Second?
All in favor? Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Right?
So, I'll go home and check. Just hold up. I'll go home.
Okay, oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, okay. Mincing of words, different words, okay. All right. That's it for the warrant, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, discussion of disposition of room occupancy tax receipts. Does Mr. Hort want to address that?
So, as you know, there were 4 entities that made a recommendation as to how we should dispose of, or where we should put the room occupancy tax when that money is received. My first reaction from those entities was, why would somebody from the outside tell Wellfleet what to do with the funds that they are going to be coming from? What I think is a better way of looking at it is, we have no idea really what type of money we are talking about receiving. So if we wait a year to do this, we've got better information that we'll actually know what type of money we're talking about. So if we were to say right now, well, I think that 50% of that should go to housing, we have no idea what that dollar amount is. Where a year from now, we'll have a better idea, because we'll actually have received some receipts from this program, and we'll have a better idea of exactly what we're allocating. This won't put any money into the general fund, because what this will do in FY20 is all of this money that is excess will go into free cash at the end of the year, and the only way that that money can be spent or allocated to a different purpose is through a town meeting vote. So there is no way that this money will go into the general fund. It can only be ending up in free cash. And then in a year from now, we'll have an idea how much money this actually amounts to. And we'll also have the time to talk about, during that time, of how much money we would like to put towards dredging, how much money we would like to put towards housing, how much money we might like to put towards a capital improvement fund. We'll be able to make a better informed decision. That's where my opinion is coming from.
And I feel confident that Wellfleet will know where to put their money. I mean, as a group, we'll know the priorities, and then we can also deem, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle or get lost over time. You know, maybe next year that we will say 25% goes here, 25 there, 30% there, and then leave the rest of it for other things. Who had their hand up first? Kathleen?
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort, the 4 entities proposed a bylaw, and I thought it was a pretty good, solid, bylaw. I believe your reply stated something like, no two towns are alike, and Wellfleet may be spending their money a little bit differently. And I do feel that with regard to dredging, that's the elephant in our community right now that another town might not have. So I'm solid with your reasoning.
And if I can respond to that, I think, Kathleen, you and I are have the same passion towards housing as we all do. But it's like we've got a longer ways to go in housing than many other communities, and that housing and dredging, as we've said, those are our 2 biggest priorities. And when we know what money is involved, that's probably where we're going to want to send most of the money.
Yeah.
So I have my hand up.
Helen, yep.
Yeah, so a couple things. And I appreciate hearing what you just explained again, because it can't be said too often.
Talking to the mic.
Sorry, I appreciated what Dan said. He went over it again. He went over it at the last meeting, too. I have one question that I would like to have answered, and I'm looking at Justina meaningfully, because she will be someone who will...
Meaningfully?
Yeah. I sent, as an individual, I was careful to qualify, to Erin Perry at the Cape Cod Commission, who I've spoken with before, trying to learn more about 208 plan. I said to her, so this, room tax fund, is it something that could possibly show our good faith effort towards mitigating wastewater issues? If we show that we're committed in this way. Do you see what I'm saying? Even given the safeguard that it can't be used for just anything,
Yeah.
But the thing is, I wanted to find out if, therefore, that article would be a demonstration of that, because the more I think about it, you understand, wastewater is something, dealing with it, that raises everybody's taxes. And we have other sources of funding for housing, which is incredibly important, but I would like to have every cent of this, if possible, spent on mitigating wastewater in all of or managing it, or just having it available to deal with what all we people are putting into the water. We can't control all the sources of nitrogen, but am I going too far?
You're going
No,
to.
but one of the things
You're
that I want to
misunderstanding.
keep in mind is there are two separate pools of money here.
Yes.
One is the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund, which is the
Yes.
2.75%, and the other is the local options tax, which is currently 4%.
Oh,
So the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund
He's got
will
that
be
covered.
very specific as to how that can be spent. And the committee or the group that Justina was just appointed
Yeah,
to
it's something
will make
else.
those type of decisions.
No,
It's a
we'll help-
two-tiered tax.
We'll help
Yeah.
make those decisions.
We'll make those decisions for that 4% of where
thank
we
you.
want to.
I was sort of, there's a reason I started asking about it.
Yeah, and also quickly,
Complicated.
this is, comes out of the Chamber of Commerce and the Association of Realtors, and it lists competitive marketing of Cape Cod as one of the categories, so I don't think we should jump in bed with this bylaw.
Well, and I will say, it's a really good bylaw. It's very well written.
Yeah,
And
it
it
is,
can
but
certainly be a prototype, a template, so, yeah. But you got that, Helen, that? Okay.
There
good.
was fuzziness. My ignorance is relieved in public.
Well, it's a team, Helen.
Yes.
Mr. Felix, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I hesitate to say anything, but the money that's coming from the Airbnb tax, not in the fund, but coming from the tax, that's free cash to the town to be used as the town wants to use it. The fund money has to, that's not a revenue stream. That's a potential borrowing or a potential grant. So it has to be applied for, and it's one-shot money. So you would not want to use or even look at that type of money for any kind of continuing operations.
You're talking about the 2 3/4 percentage?
Yes,
Okay.
that money is, it's going to be a lot of money, but that's looked at as being used for like capital expenses. You would
Right.
not think of that money as funding something operating. The money that's coming from the Airbnb tax directly to the town, that's unencumbered, that will be annual revenue coming in terms of those receipts. But I just want to be clear that you don't want to look at those as two pots of new money that can be used for operating expenses. So to Helen's
Right,
point.
it would be for
to Hel-
infrastructure.
Correct.
I've heard employment,
Right, so to
Yeah.
Helen's point,
consulting.
the money that's coming from the Airbnb tax, I think you do want to consider using that for wastewater.
But
You
The
mean,
fund
you mean
will-
rather than the 2 and...
For example, for the position that's on the warrant.
So wait, but you're saying, so you just said that the money coming, the 2 3/4% is designated wastewater.
It's designated into a fund that can be borrowed, or it can be used, it can be asked for as a grant, mainly toward capital infrastructure. You would not use that money to fund a position.
Oh, okay, that's
I
new
just
to
wanted to
me.
clarify that.
That's not what I've heard, but, so is that regulation out there?
Well, it's,
Has that been decided upon?
yeah, the fund that Justina's just been appointed to
Mm-hmm.
as the town representative, the parameters for borrowing or getting a grant from that fund are already set up,
Okay,
so it's clear.
okay, thank you.
which is the, through you to Mr. Hort, which is the one that, as Alex said at our last meeting, we should get in line and start applying for, because it's not,
That one.
that
yeah.
one.
You just
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, that's what okay. So now, it's all clear.
It gets clearer a little bit every day.
Every hour that passes.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we? Do we want to discuss this anymore?
No.
No.
Okay. You sure?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Habitat for Humanity fee waiver. I'm going to say this should go pretty quickly and easily.
I move to waive, or, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Discussion?
No, I don't think so.
Audience, shut up. No, I can't say that. I move to waive fees related to health and fire departments I move to waive the fees related to the health and fire departments for Habitat for Humanity on their 2082 State Highway project.
Second.
All in favor? That passes, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Bonnie, are you just standing up because you're tired of sitting, or do you have a question or something? Okay. Okay. We somewhere missed, oh, yeah, okay, never mind. All right, that was my own idea. Town Administrator's Report.
The only thing I would highlight here is that the Nauset Regional School District will come in and present their budget at your meeting on the 26th.
Okay. Great. Any questions for thank you, Mr. Powers.
Thank you.
You know what, I should highlight one other thing. The meeting on February 27th, where the Outer Cape Town managers and administrators met with basically the local legislative delegation, representatives from Governor Baker's office, Governor Polito's office, Senator Warren, Senator Keating, Senator Markey, Congressman Keating. Everybody was there to listen to us talk about what we needed as an Outer Cape community on what we needed to help us with the issue related to sharks. And one of the biggest things that we put forward to them is the lack of ability to receive any kind of reliable phone service on any of the beaches, and that possibly a fiber optic connection could be a possibility. I look at that as if we can do that, that also helps people who live out there who are unable to get reliable cell phone service, that maybe we can do something for them as well. So I thought it was a really productive meeting, and Lieutenant Governor Polito has indicated that she would like to come out and meet with all of us probably sometime in May, which I'm hoping that could only be positive news, that when she would come out and meet with us. So.
Kathleen?
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort, is there any way that you could, put this on the town's webpage or site? Because there's a lot of people out there that think we're doing nothing, and I'd like to change that.
I have started
Maybe
to
in
do
your
that.
newsletter?
I'm putting
You're
that
gonna
to
do a newsletter?
I'm putting that together as far as putting something on the town's website to show all of the things that we are doing already. The Stop the Bleed training, the request for an emergency rescue vehicle that will come up on town meeting floor. Just all of the
Our
different
call
things that we are
boxes,
working, the call boxes that are being installed, all of these things that we're doing already that probably many people don't know about. And you're absolutely right. We need to get the word out to show we are doing stuff. We are participating in this study as well, on what of the different mitigation methods that are out there, what would work and what wouldn't work.
Madam Chair, through you to
yes.
Dan. I don't want to drag this out tonight, but I don't know if using social media and some of the products, there's something called Hootsuite, which young people like Courtney probably know about, but it can make it administratively easier. It might take some of the burden off you, because I think a lot of people now go to Facebook and Instagram, and the town could have posts, and you wouldn't have to do it all.
Yeah. We're going to put an informational flyer together to show everything that we're doing now and what we hope to do in the future once we have more information. So.
And just so you know, also today in our vulnerability planning, broadband and fiber optics were right up there.
Yeah.
So.
And it's all through the Cape. It's not just Wellfleet. That a lot of places still don't get internet, even low speed. Okay, any other questions? Yes, and cellular, yeah. So, okay, so moving on to topics for future discussion or any other.
I've got none at the moment.
Okay, there are two doozies. This is also overlapping into correspondence. One is the lesser doozy. It appears that, and there's money involved, we need a representative on the Barnstable County HOME Consortium Council. That is a housing group, and I'm going to say it again, there's money involved, and we haven't had a representative on it. So may we, by consensus or vote, direct the town administrator to contact the housing authority, please, or somebody?
I know I've talked to the housing authority about that, and there was something, maybe
they need to send somebody.
Regulations have changed.
We'll follow up on that.
Yeah, either housing partnership. The other one is the big one. And so I beg you all to read the correspondence file, because I didn't last time. Gesundheit. I didn't last time. I usually do.
Okay, so what is it?
Eversource. On February 7th, we got the notification that started the clock ticking for the 45 days we have to pay into what we have to do cyclically. They want to come and spray between June 1st and October 18th this year.
I read it.
You did, but the thing is, we have to deliver one of those select board letters, and it was copied, Dan, to Conscom and, the Health Conservation Department, but I want to be sure that they know about that. I mean, I will communicate it personally when I'm talking to whoever. I'm going to see Hillary later this week. But the point is, we need to weigh in with the heavy letters again, because we don't want it.
Right, no spray.
Yeah, the worst.
I thought we
You have to do it
voted on
every
that. I
time.
thought we did it this year. I
No.
guess it was, maybe it was supposed to come
And
up. Okay, yeah, good.
So February 7th, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
And we have to get one in now. So here's the thing. Last year, we did one, I think. And could we recycle that letter? Could it be found?
I will look it up from last time.
Yeah, and then just redate it. I'm asking for approval of this.
Yeah.
Redate it, put the new dates in, and have it for our signature in the office so it can be sent off, so we don't have to wait. Because we approved the language previously. And I may have it too, Dan, but I'm not sure that I do. That would be really good.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like to, for future discussion, before I leave the board, sometime to talk about the possibility of having a town planner at some point in time, and especially looking at the properties down on Mayo Beach and Kendrick Avenue, either way that you want to call them. And I'd just like, before I leave the board, I'd like to have that discussion at some point, if that's possible.
It's talked about all the
Well,
time.
we should probably have a meeting sometime in April,
Or
before
we can
town
talk
meeting.
about it at our work meeting.
Our work meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's really talked about, that's been talked about for years, getting
When's our
a
work,
real.
next work meeting?
We should probably set the date if we want one.
Yeah, it's a good topic for that work meeting.
Pardon?
Perhaps we could talk about it at our work meeting, which I think we just had one, the 19th of? Yeah, so sometime this month.
Next week.
Do we have a date for a work meeting?
Not
We
yet.
want to make a date for a work meeting, Mr. Hort and Ms. Courtney.
Well, I have a future concern as well, and
I
my
have a
future
lot.
concern is that we need to have a meeting probably next week to insert the ballot questions onto the election ballot.
Yeah.
I just got
Okay.
the information back from Bound Council this afternoon, and the meeting on the 26th will be too late to do it. It has to be 35 days prior.
Okay.
So if we wanted to have a work session next week, if people have availability, maybe Courtney and I can pool all of you to see when you might be available next week.
Yeah.
And have a meeting next week, and we could, the questions are just standard questions, and we'll be able to knock them out and get that done, and then we could go to the work session and talk about things such as the town planner.
Okay, sounds good.
Does that work for everybody?
Just not Monday, right? Because
Right,
we have a
right.
meeting. Okay, good. Town planner and articles. for that
Any day except Wednesday is good for me, so if you had like an afternoon meeting or something like that,
Yeah, do you want
would
to,
be
do you want to
okay.
do next Tuesday at what time?
Hold on a minute.
Can you do during the day?
Early, like 12 or 1, right?
1 o'clock?
I can do it on Tuesday, the 19th.
Okay, any particular time?
12 would be good if it's, you know.
sometime after Helen gets up.
Yeah.
I got up at 5:30 this morning.
Oh,
Now you know.
I didn't ask, okay.
So we're tentatively going to send around an email with confirmation to see if it will work for everybody once you've looked at your calendars.
Yep.
To see if noon on Tuesday, the
Tuesday.
19th would work.
Maybe 1 o'clock so we can eat.
Well, so you guys can eat if
Bring
you
your
take a lunch hour.
I eat at 11, that's my breakfast.
Well,
Okay,
So they can eat.
and I
Yes.
don't need to eat. Okay, anybody else for,
No, I have no
future
future
agendas?
concerns,
Okay, so
Janet.
1
I'm
o'clock is good.
packing
Good.
light this
Okay.
time.
Okay, so one of my future concerns, I'm glad Dick stayed around for this, is I want to reconsider the remote participation discussion. I went to remote participation, a meeting that used remote participation, and it was really, really, really good. I mean, it was like no problem. There are, you know, I agree with Helen that there isn't that facial body language that you can get that well, but it actually made the meeting go smoother, not looking at someone's body language.
That's funny.
Janet?
We're going to talk about it next time. I'm just putting it on the future agenda. We don't have to talk about, I knew you'd be mad. Don't you have some vacation days coming?
How about you?
So I also want to minimize our use of paper. So I could go over this. Yes, I really, I am disgusted with how much paper I go through and this. So whose idea is all this paper? I thought it was yours. So you agree?
I just got here, Janet.
Okay,
I
good.
was told
I
to
thought
make
you
this
wanted
packet
it.
as thick as
So
possible.
you and I will work on that, but it's, so, and that should apply to every town board. Okay, so you and I'll talk about, great. I'm so
I've been
happy I brought it,
wondering about
finally
this.
brought it up. And wait, I'm still going. We have not been getting, you actually already went
To what?
to future discussion. You've already had your turn.
No, I don't want any more.
Okay, so, oh, you're just making noise. So we haven't been getting a correspondence report in this. Like, we used to get a letter, and I have to say, it's up to the clerk.
Yeah?
You mean we haven't been getting one?
You did, on a regular basis.
Ginny Mac does it, and it's in the folder.
It's not in our packet.
It should be in a
So,
packet.
so I'm
okay.
realizing that you
I
were
can take
never,
care of that.
you were.
Bye,
yeah.
Bonnie.
Good night, you guys.
Vacancy report.
Is that what you stayed around for? Whatever. Oh, okay. It's a little, well, you'll have to come more often now that you're on the planning
I
board.
was told when I joined that it stayed in the folder along with the correspondence, which then was given to me at the start of the meeting by Radu, and I can certainly change it and put it back into the packet.
So when I was clerk, I would go in and I would list all the letters, not what they were, but quick, whatever, bike trail from blah, blah, blah.
Ginny Mac does that.
But we don't get the copy. We
I'm
didn't- I would-
explaining, I can change that. The policy that was explained to me.
Actually, that happened with Kathleen.
No,
When
it's-
Kathleen was
Right.
clerk, she didn't want to do that.
No, it's
So,
happened.
I didn't want to take it away from Ginny because when I
I would
did,
be surprised if she wanted it, so,
she does, because I talked to her about it.
really?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right,
She does
fine.
not,
Good.
it's one little thing that she has that's hers. And I
Okay,
talked to her
but we need it in our
extensively.
packet.
I will do that.
And then because that way we can also discuss any letter that comes before us.
No, I think it's important.
Okay,
but
good.
I didn't know that
All
was
right,
the policy.
I'm glad I brought that up. So we've got remote participation, minimize use of paper, correspondence report. We forgot to put, and I'm using the big we, the marijuana agreement. They were going to come tonight.
They're going to come on your next meeting.
Well, yeah,
the 26th.
because we forgot to put them on this meeting.
I didn't forget it. I
Oh,
knew
you
that
did?
this one was long.
Okay, all right, good. Did you talk to them?
Yes.
All right, good.
They're aware of it.
All right, good. So, and then I want to remind select boards that we can insert along select board reports or announcements.
Yes.
That has also slipped by, maybe put it after the town administrator's report. Because I have Justina and I and Lily Green went to the Cape Cod Cape Cod Selectmen and Counselors Association last Friday. And, it's just really good hearing other people talk about marijuana, talk about 208, talk about the taxes and everything. And all the legislatures were there. It's quite interesting to meet Vieira.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting to
Whatever.
hear other towns talking about their
Dylan
challenges, and then
Dylan Fernandez, yeah.
elected officials. The rep from Nantucket and the islands and Falmouth is like a Beto O'Rourke in training.
I was going to say, he's our Beto O'Rourke.
And very, very, in addition to being handsome, he's very well-spoken and
Yeah.
apparently making quite the name for himself.
And you also get the feeling that, or I got it this time, that, for all the different flavors of all the different towns, like Brewster's so different from us and Provincetown and Barnstable. And to be honest, I'd never even been to that section of Falmouth, and that was even enchanting. But the selectmen and the counselors, we all kind of agree on everything we need to do to protect our Cape. We love the Cape, we love the nature, we love the water, and everybody, we're all on the same page, more or less. It's really pretty exciting to go to those. So that's it for me. And let's have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, the minutes.
Can we?
The minutes, they're so long.
I can't wait to start at 10 o'clock. So if we start at 7, it would be 11 now, right?
Well,
Just saying.
no,
No, we started at 7.
Oh, we
tonight.
did start at 7.
Yeah.
All right, so I haven't had dinner. Time for me to go. Let's
well,
go.
okay, so.
This is on the minutes, right?
First of all, we have 3 pending minutes, which is going to be a
Yes.
workload. We did not, have not yet, and we have an executive session set of minutes. February 19th, our work meeting, February 25th, the MSI meeting, and our
Okay,
March
so-
4th warrant meeting we haven't gotten yet. So here we are at February 12th, 2019. First page, nothing. Second page, under Becky Rosenberg, under Recreation Department, down at the bottom, talking about the 12-passenger van. It will not enable, but it will improve transportation. And at the end of that, that is being donated to the town at the end of the line up above, because it just says 12-passenger van. It doesn't say anything about the donation. Then, moving right along, on page 5, this hasn't happened yet. Second paragraph down, this is when we were looking at the parking lot next to the Masonic parking lot. And I said the fence should, let's have the fence, given that we saw that the lot lines were different. Said the fence should be moved sooner rather than later. She asked for it to ask the DPW to remove the fence, and there was no disagreement from the board. So it hasn't happened yet, but that's not part of the minutes. Page 6, and I'm tired too, second paragraph or third paragraph up from the bottom. Yeah, second paragraph up from the bottom. A vote for non-disapproval, good night, Jerry,
Good
was
night.
not
Thank you.
taken, but there was a consensus of the board that Hort should move ahead and ask staff to prepare a host community agreement. I watched the tape, the video on that. In other words, that's where we got to that.
So much in here.
And then right above that, I asked to get something in writing. And I didn't highlight this in red, and I'm just going to put a heart next to it, Courtney, so you know that it's supposed to be in red. I'm sorry, I forgot to highlight it. At the end of the thing about Wilson asked Pike, blah, 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 and at the end of that paragraph where Kenny said Zender's clients did not send a letter, but he and Powers have spoken with them, and they claim no rights to the property. I wish you guys would stop talking, please. Thank you. Wilson asked to get something in writing. I don't know if we've gotten that yet. Okay, page 7, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs up from the bottom. Sharon Rule Agger and Gary Sunken presented on behalf of the Housing Authority and the Housing Partnership. And page 8.
Well, actually, it does just go to, I believe it just goes to the Housing Authority. It's not the Housing Partnership that handles these land things.
It was presented on behalf by both of them. They were both here. It's just about the presentation. You're right, it just goes to the Housing Authority. So page 8.
Found it.
3 lines down, important for committees to have a physically present quorum inserted. And then on the bottom line, that technical difficulties also often arise. This is so boring. Topics for future discussion, a request for DCR and DOT to have a second meeting in Wellfleet on the Cape Cod Rail Trail. And that's it for those minutes, and I move that we approve them as amended.
Second, all in favor? Thank you, Helen.
Okay, moving right along. February 26th. There's a little sort of minor thing at the top, which is COA Director Suzanne Grout-Thomas, COA Director / Beach Administrator, because she sort of spoke from both positions. And page 3. Second paragraph down. Okay, this was an endless bike meeting. Thank you, Courtney. What a nightmare. What a nightmare, yeah. Second paragraph down. McLaughlin said the project aims to continue the bike lane shoulder on Route 6. She noted that currently at the intersection there are lanes in both directions for vehicular traffic. That, she was also talking about the other kind of lanes, and it was unclear in this. And also, because they care about this technicality, although we understand it, it's not a rotary, it was a roundabout. This is before your time. Different. It's like in Orleans, okay? Down at the bottom, second paragraph from the bottom up, she said the first time Stantec came before the board, we asked for improvements that were not presented tonight. I listened to the whole thing over again. It was horrible. The bottom line in that chunk, the town had originally requested a left-turning light option on the westbound side at that intersection. That was very clear, and Kathleen piled on that and, emphasized it. So we both mentioned it.
So what's the correction?
The correction is, it reads then, the bottom two lines, and the town had originally requested a left-turning light option on the westbound side, comma, at that intersection. And then also added to the end of that paragraph, she said she hoped that any sidewalks, this is me talking, would have a 45-degree angle, would have 45-degree angle curbstones. That's bike safety. We had previously asked to have throughout that intersection breakdown bike lanes and to breakdown/bike lanes and to take out cement islands in the middle to afford more room on the sides. There was more that came up, but that came up really clearly right then. And since this is something they may look at, and I have something to say about that later. Okay, next page, page 4. 3 paragraphs down at the end of what Tom Flynn said, he predicted that having bicyclists who weren't roadworthy, in quotes, encouraged to use the highway by the bike path, would be dangerous.
Where's that?
Third paragraph down at the
No,
end
it's
of Tom.
up, third paragraph.
Yeah,
up.
at the end of Tom Flynn, what Tom Flynn was saying. And then Barbara Boone, I put in the stuff that was salient, right? These things that were brought up that were like points that kind of added to where we were going.
Okay, yeah, just
okay,
go
keep
over the
going.
corrections
Okay.
and amendments.
1, 2, 3, 4 down. At the end of that sentence where Barbara Boone is talking, Boone didn't see it as a practical option, comma, that it would be a risk factor. Those are her words. Farther down, 3 paragraphs up from the bottom, typo. It's not Mimi Bucks, it's Mimi Butts, and I looked up the spelling.
Yeah, it's B-U-T-T-S.
Yes. And she said, at the end of that, what she had to say, she said it is one of the busiest parts of town. Nobody had actually said that, but she said it. Okay, next page, it's Lyle Butts. Hard to get these names right.
Fifth paragraph, it's Lyle, L-Y-L-E.
Yeah, no, I looked it up.
B-U-T-T-S. I'm just telling Courtney.
Okay, and it's in here, so she'll see it. So page 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks down. At the end of Lyle Butt's chunk, said the two-way bike lane is inviting to families and riders, invites families and riders onto the highway, which was dangerous. That was his point. It doesn't just invite them, it makes it dangerous. 3 paragraphs up from the bottom. There was discussion about the bike path extension and the Route 6 at Main Street intersection projects, even though the two were not both being presented at the meeting. And we knew that, and this point was brought up. And it was acknowledged. And below that, Bacon said there should be a regional approach, blah, blah, blah. And then she asked Stantec to provide them with the traffic lights and crosswalks they had asked for. Wilson pointed out that large bicycle groups were already using the well-freed roads with no problem. That's when I said, 350 riders, whatever. Okay, next page. Page 6. Oh, minor. Weekly entertainment. Wilson asked Hort if the applicants were provided a copy of the noise bylaw, not just the bylaw. And next page, 7. 1, 2, 3 paragraphs down. Houck asked if he had gone to meet Michael Flanagan. Annette said yes. Wilson asked that he access related materials, such as the maintenance dredging engineer's report that had been previously presented to the board. And let's not go back there. Page 9, topics for future concerns. As for a warrant item for a bylaw for receiving room tax money for the 208 plan, we dealt with that tonight. Wilson asked again for a baseline electromagnetic radiation reading at Town Hall before the new transformer is installed. And I did that you know, I'm always interested in that, but I did it at the request of some of the people that work in that area.
Yeah, we know.
Okay? And one more thing, and then, I want to go home. Correspondence and vacancy report. Wilson asked for the dredging task force to be added to the list of committees on the town website, and that section of the site be brought up to date, and that has been done, as far as I can make out. Thank you, whoever did it. That's it. I move that we
Approve the minutes as amended.
for minutes of February 26, 2019. as
Second.
amended.
All in favor? Unanimous.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Oh, out of here.